Yeah. What up, everybody? What's up? It's your boy, AP, in the house. You know what I'm saying?
A to the P.
A to the P with a D, the top D. Hello, David. How are you doing?
Yo. I'm waiting to see how your internet doing. For anyone who is just jumping in right now, AP is having the weirdest internet connection problem we've ever seen. Something that can only be described as the curse of Allah.
Yeah. I think you're already glitching here, lagging.
Am I?
Hello, everybody. Yeah, I think a little bit. So what apparently happened is we were supposed to start half an hour ago. I'm always connected with a cable to my router, to my gateway. But apparently my internet was very slow. I didn't think it would be the cable. So I switched to Wi-Fi. And apparently the Wi-Fi is much faster, which makes me think it's probably a faulty cable or something wrong with my port here. But the Wi-Fi is also very unreliable. I never want to do live streams on Wi-Fi. So everybody, let me know. I don't know why I'm still doing these classes. It's just let me know what the connection is like.
What's weird is you started moving with like a Stevie Wonder type thing when you had on the glasses. Very superstitious, right? You started doing that sort of thing.
Yeah. People are saying, what? People are saying David Wood is in 240p. Really?
Yeah, I don't know if that's me or you, because I told you I just rehooked all this stuff up today. I don't know if that's me, but guys, who cares? If you can hear us, that's the main factor. But I'm not going to start messing around with settings right now.
See, maybe they can't hear us. Maybe that's the issue.
Can they hear us?
I don't know. Maybe they can. I mean, it looks like they can, but who can really say if they can hear us or not? Or do we have proof for that? Or do we have documents?
Did anyone catch the debate earlier today? Oh, it was the same debate. Huh. I guess that's me then, because that did not involve your screwed up internet connection. Huh.
Yeah.
I don't know. Probably lighting. I don't have any real lights. I have like the walls lit up.
Does David sound horrible when he's speaking? Anybody? Does he sound worse than normal? Or
do I sound like that to you? Or do I sound normal?
Just a little bit. I don't know. Okay, I'm sick of this. Let's start with the time. Oh yeah, tomorrow we are going to have a live stream together.
Oh yeah.
As a follow-up, not on this channel, but on David Wood's channel, right? David Wood.
Yep. D Wood's channel.
Yeah. So you have a channel now, and you finally have a channel, and I want to help David Wood out growing his channel. Small YouTubers like him.
Yeah, you got to help this. You got to help the little guys, man.
Yeah. Do they need the help of big YouTubers like myself and others? Which is why I will join David Wood tomorrow live on his channel, so we can talk about some other stuff related to the topic that we are doing today. Today we are going to review a video in which Dawah, who is a very underrated but widely known thinker of our time, gives responses to to atheist questions, and David as a Christian and I as whatever I am. Apparently I'm an atheist, but we want to review that together. And tomorrow on his channel, we will also do something similar, but we will review a different person's take on God and religion and all of that. What are you doing with your camera?
What? I don't know. I don't know what settings to mess with. So I'm just clicking on stuff, but it's doing weird stuff.
It looked pretty good though.
Oh wait, effects.
So I will promote
Ah!
this poor little YouTuber David Wood's channel tonight and also tomorrow.
No, it's not funny. I can't even get off it now. It does, like, I'm clicking on the same button. It's not getting off. So I don't know how to.
Oh boy.
I don't know. I don't know. I can click on other effects, but there's nothing that says normal here. So I don't know how to actually go back to normal.
Is there anything that says default or reverse?
Nothing. That's what I mean. Nothing. Oh my good! I can't even click on anything else. It's not letting me click on any.
What are you on? What
What is it? Your internet connection, and then I can't click on anything else. Oh my goodness!
This is amazing.
It's actually not letting me click on anything.
Where are you doing this? I didn't catch that. Is that your settings for your? Where are you doing this?
I'm in eyeglasses. Wait, I could just get out of eyeglasses.
Yeah, you could probably just shut it down.
It's not even funny, man. I can't get out of it. Let me see if I can zoom. Oh, I can zoom in and out. I just can't.
Oh,
I just can't get out of the effects. I'm clicking on every single one. It won't change it. What kind of crap program? What kind of crap garbage program?
This looks unexpectedly funny.
Okay. All right. I don't know what's going to happen when I close out. Oh wait, I could go up to where's the settings on
You look like a little child.
Okay, I could go to settings on.
Child prodigy wants to come here and talk about philosophy.
Hang on. All right. I'm switching to. All right, I'm going to switch to this thing, but I'm going to be way smaller than you because it's like a wide. It's going to like a wide shot with this one.
Oh, now you're now.
Is it clear though?
Yeah, but it's very.
Yeah, I'm far away. That's what I mean.
You're so far away, but so close.
Far away from me. What happens if I go back on this thing? Oh, now it's stuck in there again.
So close, but so far away.
Are you kidding me? There's actually, once I've clicked this, there is no way out of it.
Yeah.
What a disaster, man. What a disaster of a show this is.
What a horrible show. I think we should just cancel this. Pretend it never happened.
We need to burn this show to the ground. Hang on. Let me try my garbage camera that's actually on the computer. That's weird stuff. Let's see. Oh, that's not going to work. That's way too dark. The dumb beginning to a show ever. I click on something because I'm trying to figure out something, and then
Yeah. All right. This has been an amazing show so far, man.
This is the cream of the crop right here, guys. You get nothing but the best when you're dealing with D Wood and Apostate Prophet.
Nothing but a D thing.
Nothing but the finest.
Ain't nothing but a D thing, baby.
Nothing but the dumbest.
Dumbest, yeah. Oh yeah, we have a link to tomorrow's stream in which you used this terrible photos of both of us. But yeah,
I used what I got from like 5 years ago or whenever we started.
Yeah, that's good, bro. That's good, bro. Okay, man.
Oh, yo, yeah. So today we're going to be looking at, in theory, if anything works, we're going to be looking at Ali Dawah answering, what is it? The most common questions of
the toughest atheism questions in 1 minute.
Did those seem like the toughest?
No.
Yeah. Okay. I was just making sure. And then tomorrow, because last week we were talking, we were like, hey, we should watch something by like William Lane Craig or something like that. So we're gonna do that on separate channels. So tomorrow we're gonna watch a video of the Kalam cosmological argument by William Lane Craig, and then we're going to discuss it where, what we agree with, what we disagree with, things like that.
We're going to destroy William Lane Craig's Kalam cosmological argument.
Oh yeah, I forgot. See, for those of you who are outside the U.S., you don't know that the biggest sporting event in the world is tomorrow, and that's the Super Bowl. So that starts at like 6:30 or something like that. So we're doing it at 5. We're going live at 5.
Oh yeah. Tomorrow is the Super Bowl, which is the biggest thing in America and the most irrelevant thing in the rest of the world. So because of that, we will have a different time. Yeah.
The Super Bowl would grab World Cup and just like slap it like a redheaded child.
All right, mate. Let's do it then, innit? Let's look at this video then, innit, mate? Yes. Okay.
I'm guessing that with that other Zoom thing I was using, I'm guessing, because I haven't used this computer in so long, I'm guessing it just needs to be updated or something like that. So we should have that fixed later on.
Yeah, all right, mate. Let's do this then, innit? It's good that British people are not offended by
British people don't sound like Ali Dawah.
Okay. All right. I have a headache. That's why I came with glasses here. So yeah. Let's start. Are you ready, David Wood? Are you ready, boy?
The question is, are you ready to have all of your toughest questions answered by Ali Dawah in 1 minute?
Absolutely. Somebody also recognized here that Ali Dawah has a different style for this video. Specifically, his hair is blue. And we will go into this video now and check out what blue-haired Ali Dawah has in store for us, a Christian and an atheist.
Maybe he's trying to reach
Muslims.
Maybe he's trying to reach out to a different community or something.
Yeah, he's trying to. Yeah. All right, let's see.
God created everything. So who created God?
You believe in God. Scientists couldn't figure it out.
You never thought of that one.
Is that right?
If there is infinite time, why not infinite possibilities?
So, okay, this video is 12 minutes long, and apparently it's just a bunch of questions that are supposed to be the toughest questions of atheism, and he's supposed to give 1 minute responses to it. I didn't watch the whole video. I found it very dumb at some point. I know that he gives 1 minute responses, and sometimes he just goes very well over it. These two guys, I believe, are Turkish. That's why they have such a horrible accent. And yeah,
Turkish people, man. The people with the weirdest accent in the world talking to the one person with the weirdest voice in the world.
All right, let's go.
The moment he creates that, he becomes not powerful because he can't lift it.
Is this a preview? This is a preview.
Thing that exists.
Yeah, these are previews here at the beginning. Before they get into
he found that young kids were not taught about Islam or Christianity or any other religion. They all had the inclination to believe in one God.
Wow. I mean, I don't even want to. We haven't even started, but just that preview, that is completely false. Well, I mean, no disrespect to the actual point of the research, but that is not the point of that research, man. Oh my God, I can't even. Okay, let's go.
You're just jealous because babies refute.
Oh boy.
Ali Dawah, you have 1 minute for each question.
You ready?
Oh, hold up. Pause. Now you're actually Turkish, but Turkish is these guys. It sounded like Russian. Does Turkish sound like Russian to you, or sound totally different?
No, it's totally different. But
okay.
Wait a minute.
You have 1 minute for each question.
We have 1 minute for you, comrade Ali Dawah.
If I was Turkish, I would probably say something like, "You have 1 minute for each question." I can't even do it because I never had a Turkish accent speaking English. I had more of a German accent always. No idea. But yeah. Okay.
Are you ready?
Wait.
You have 1 minute for each question.
You ready?
Are you ready?
Can you prove?
Wow, fantastic.
Are you?
Existence? 1 minute.
Let's look at Google. In order for Google to exist, we need the internet. In order for the internet to exist, we need a computer or our telephones or our tablets. In order for the computer to exist, there has to be human beings that create it, and etc. It relies on electricity. The question follows is the following. Google relies on the internet relies on the computer relies on us and electricity, and this goes on. We cannot have an infinite regress of dependent things. We require a place where it all stops and makes sense, which is the independent, self-sufficient, necessary being, which is God.
Why can't the
So, argument from necessary being, which he brought against me when he was talking to me and trying to somehow prove to the world that I know nothing and he is a genius. To be honest, this was more coherent than what he brought when he talked to me about this.
They probably like sent it ahead of time, and so he could like prepare. But then I don't know why he wouldn't be prepared when he was talking to you. But yeah, so he's giving a version of what's called the contingency argument. In the past, lots of times it's been lots of proponents of the contingency argument in the past have used terms that are like Aristotelian, and so they're kind of hard to grasp for people who aren't familiar with the terms, like actuality and potentiality and things like that. As far, I mean, it's nothing I've ever followed much, but it seems like more common recent formulations just go with dependent and independent. And the reason he's going with like he said something about Google and the internet and so on is that so the argument is things are dependent on other things for their existence, even while they're doing it. So AP and I are live streaming, but that's dependent on the internet, and the internet is dependent upon electricity, and that's dependent upon, the power stations, and we're dependent on the internet and so on. So we're dependent on all kinds of things right now. And the main claim of a contingency argument like this is this can't go on forever. You can't say this is dependent on this, 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 just forever. It has to get to something that everything's dependent on. That at least that's the claim. I wouldn't say that he just proved that by any means. He basically barely sketched a kind of draft of it. But with that said, I'm not sure you could give an actual contingency argument in a minute. But I see the problems I see is, he hasn't really defended any of these claims. And two, then he concludes that the necessary being is God. And that's that's the part. Because notice, if you assume you agree with him and you said, yes, there has to be some independent, self-sufficient being. When you say the word God, you're talking about a being with a lot of different attributes, which a necessary. I mean, so think. We're like for life, right? For life, we're dependent upon the sun for heat and so on. That doesn't mean the sun is like thinking. So in man, now the sun itself is not necessary and self-sufficient. But imagine there were something that's like the sun, but necessary. It doesn't mean it's like thinking or judging or intervening and so on. So this doesn't mean you can't defend those points. But the point is, I don't think he got the God right there.
Yeah, but I think he's going to do the same thing that he did when he initially when he talked to me, which is that he heard from some of his friends that this contingency argument is apparently a very good argument for the existence of God. So he comes and he doesn't really understand what the necessary being is supposed to be in his argument. So he declares with a child's mind that everything must depend on something, on an origin. There cannot be an infinite regress, popular term. And then he says, therefore, there is something at the very beginning, which is the necessary being. If you then challenge his point on what the necessary being could be, could it be energy? Could it be the universe? Could it be this? Could it be that? He then suddenly begins defining the necessary being as necessarily self-sufficient, conscious, almighty, and this and that. All attributes that he didn't do anything to establish. I'm sure he's going to do that here as well. Let's quickly listen to that.
The necessary being, be the universe.
Well, that's good that you say that, because first it shows that you acknowledge with me that we require a necessary being.
First of all, that is false. Like I could say, let us assume that there is a necessary being. Why can it not be the universe? Thereby, I have not acknowledged that a necessary being is required. I'm just asking you a question to deal with your hypothetical here.
Yeah, and I just want to say, you and I have obviously had our disagreements with our grape gobbling friend in the past. Yeah. With that said, I mean, at the end of the day, I hope nothing for the best of him, and for the best, for him. I hope he, continues studying and so on. But going back to here's my concern, which we've talked about in the past, with Muslim apologists, not always, and not all of them, but it seems far more common than it is for any other group, that they're usually, it doesn't look like, if you're paying attention to what they're saying, it doesn't look like they're actually trying to give a good argument. It looks like they're trying to sound like they're giving a good argument, to sound, haha, don't I sound like I know what I'm talking about? And so when I hear a philosopher give a contingency argument, or someone with some background in that area, I'll sit here and, okay, let me think about the premises, and is this a good argument? Have you defended all your premises? What is your conclusion? Do you really get to God, and things like that? But because of all the experiences with the Dawah crowd, and them constantly trying to make it sound like they're talking about something coherent, but not really, it's like, why are you guys going with the contingency argument? And it's almost like a boy who cried wolf situation, that I've seen you guys so many times try to sound like you know what you're talking about, even though you don't. Just the goal is to sound like you're giving a coherent argument. That I'm thinking maybe you're going with the contingency argument because it's very unfamiliar to people. If you're talking about dependent and independent beings, and self-sufficient beings, and so on, necessary beings, and so on, and most people aren't usually thinking in these terms. And so, worst case scenario, you're going to just confuse some people, and they're going to go, wow, this person sounds smart, he's talking about these things, and not be able to spot actual flaws in the argument. With that said, I hope he's like studying and reformulating his arguments and improving his mind and so on. But
here's the thing: like, this is an argument that is actually a very complex argument, especially in
it is.
At the stages that it has arrived today. There are people who have a much more complex, a much more detailed form of this argument that takes quite a bit to explain, to comprehend, to defend, to attack, and so on. He doesn't really do that. All he does is he adopts a certain argument which has big words, and he then comes here and presents that argument. When he was in front of me, for example, like I didn't expect that he would actually discuss the contingency argument with me. I thought, I'm debating Ali Dawah, and when he brought it up, I did some very basic challenges to it, and he was entirely unable to follow up, to justify the premises, to make sense of the argument altogether. Like when I responded with, for example, if we assume that there must be a necessary being, why can it not be, just energy itself? He then jumped to, well, how can it be energy? Energy is not conscious. And
yeah, well, why would it need?
I thought,
he would need to defend the claim that the necessary being is also conscious. Which
when have we established that the necessary being is conscious?
Yeah, you'd have to give an argument for that. Yeah, you can't just say it. You can't just say it's necessary, therefore it's conscious, right? You could say the law of contradiction is necessary. The statement. A cannot be not A at the same time in the same sense. That seems necessarily true. And you can make an argument that this is a concept, and a concept has to exist in a mind. So the point is, you have to argue all that. You can't just say, oh, necessary, therefore conscious.
Yeah. That makes no sense.
And I just wanted to point out, because this is something that's this is why I don't like, if someone's go-to argument is something that the vast majority of people aren't familiar with, I start to wonder if you picked it specifically because you don't believe that people are familiar with it. You know what I mean? Like, if you use some brand new argument that no one's ever heard of, you can get away with a lot because they haven't thought about it. They don't know what the responses are to it. And so you can, what I'm saying here is, like, take an argument like a design argument or something. You say, oh, look, here's a watch. You see a watch and it's got, like, lots of little parts in it, and they've been put together, right? Well, think about you, and you're living, even a cell in your body or DNA. It's like way more complicated than this. So things like that are easy to understand, but people, lots of people are familiar with them. Once you start using concepts that people aren't familiar with, keep in mind, they may actually be better arguments, even though they're more difficult to understand. But you can't just make a bunch of leaps there.
Yeah,
it's like you're making a mathematical formula and you write a couple numbers down and then you got your conclusion down there. No, it's gotta follow. If you're with that said, he's given a minute, so I'm gonna.
Yeah, I mean, we're not being entirely fair here. Maybe I don't know. Let's see.
That's good. All you've done is applied this to the universe. And we say that contradicts the necessary being, because the necessary being is independent, self-sufficient, and is necessary. The universe,
the necessary being is necessary,
is not self-sufficient and dependent.
And a being.
You can't.
The necessary being is necessary and a being necessarily. Because I said it's a necessary being.
Okay, there are so many holes here as we go along, but I will have to stop it like at every second. But
what's crazy is, like, I actually agree with him on the point that the universe is not a necessary self-sufficient thing, and therefore it can't be. If you've concluded that there is a necessary self-sufficient being, I would agree the universe isn't it.
But you would have to establish that first, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Because the necessary being is independent, self-sufficient, and is necessary.
First off, we have not established that the universe, that these do not apply to the universe. Maybe he will do that now.
The universe is not self-sufficient and dependent.
The universe is dependent, and the universe is not self-sufficient, which he did not establish yet. Let's see.
It's opposite. So you can't have this be that, because it contradicts.
Wow, destroyed. Okay. Well, did he actually establish any of these points, any of these claims? I mean, as far as we go, he only made claims. He only made a claim that the universe is dependent and that it is not self-sufficient. Okay, if I now ask, why would it be dependent? Why is it not self-sufficient? He would then have to somehow justify those claims, somehow establish those claims, give proper arguments to establish these premises. So far, he hasn't done it, but it appears as if he had just proven the existence of God, because it clearly cannot be the universe. I mean, there's a big problem here.
Yeah, and I mean, even if you want to say that, like that. Even the universe is not the only possibility. You know what I mean? If you were going back to what we were saying before, if you're saying you could grant, okay, he's just giving an outline here, but suppose I agree that there's a necessary being. He just says this is God. Now, to be fair, lots of people down through history of, once you've gotten to something that sounds godlike, you just say that is God. Lots of people, philosophers, theologians, and stuff have done that. But just saying necessary, you need a bit more than just saying necessary or self-sufficient or something like that. And then if you try to identify it, you can't just say, well, it's not the universe.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard people argue with this argument. Muslims, Christians. I read a little bit of what's his name, Rasmussen, and is that his name? I don't know if I'm confusing names here, but. I mean, what he gave us right here, right now, is just nothing close to what the argument should actually sound like. He hasn't established anything, hasn't proven anything. So if you sit there and just ask him a tough question about the existence of God, whether he can prove the existence of God, and he comes with this, that all he has done is just used some words in your face, some big words in your face, without actually proving anything, without actually responding to the question. So he has not responded to anything here. He hasn't established anything. He hasn't given us anything that should convince the average person. And I bet if I came to William Lane Craig with this challenge, he could probably, fit a whole point that sounds quite convincing into 1 minute.
And that's that. And you're that's actually closer to what I didn't say clearly enough earlier. You hear me? Check. Hey, you froze. Uh-oh. You hear me?
Lag.
Check.
No,
you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I think I just died. I'm back. Okay.
But this goes basically saying what I was saying earlier and what you just said, that it seems like the target audience for guys like Ali Dawah isn't someone who disagrees with them. It's more like they're Muslim followers who are not familiar with this stuff, and hence the goal is to sound like you're giving good arguments, even though someone who did not agree with you would never be persuaded by that. I'm not saying you couldn't, but you'd have to really flesh out. And by the way, what I just said is what I just said about, even if you agreed that he had a case for a necessary being, you have to go on to show that is God. Keep in mind that is true for other arguments as well. Like I just mentioned a simple design argument. You could agree with everything I said and say, wow, yeah, this, I would agree that the watch is designed, and therefore I'm going to conclude that life is designed, or the universe is designed, or something like that. Notice even if you agree with the argument, you've established something intelligent and powerful. That's still, it's God-ish or something like that. But if you're defending an actual God of monotheism, there's more packed into it than an attribute or two attributes or something like that.
Yeah. Right. Let's continue then.
And God create a rock that he can't lift?
I mean, this is an invalid question. When people
First of all, I don't understand why this is considered a tough atheism question. I would never ask this question as an actual serious. This is a question that would come to your mind if you have just stopped believing and you're just looking at I don't know, confronting different forms of engaging with the whole idea that God is almighty and all of that. But this is an invalid question. It's like I can't even think of an example.
Change the topic from the toughest atheism questions. That's something like, a novice atheist in the 80s. In the 80s might have said as like, it's really confusing me. Could God make a rock so big he couldn't lift it? Huh?
This is an example of an actual invalid question, right? It's like asking, what would you do if you woke up tomorrow and you were dead?
Yeah. And so I actually agree with him here that there's a problem with the question. What's interesting? So this is like a family of questions where the issue is whether being omnipotent means you can do things that involve contradictions. And so you say, could God with all his power do this? And it's like a contradiction. Like, could God make a square circle?
Yeah.
Could God make a married bachelor or something like that without doing wordplay, an actual married bachelor and so on? It's very, very rare to find thinkers in history who believe that God could that omnipotence entailed being able to do contradictions. One of the funniest actual philosophical essays I ever read was by Harry Frankfurt. So Harry Frankfurt's a philosopher who I think is most famous for dealing with higher order desires. In other words, like you can have a desire to play video games, but you also have a desire to do your work. But then you have like this higher order desire, which says, look, you need to do that one and not that one. So it's like, how does the mind work when dealing with, competing desires and stuff? So he's mainly famous for things like that. But I had one of the books I had by Frankfurt. It was like 1 page. It was like a 1-page essay. And that's why I read it. I was like, whoa, this is a 1-page essay in philosophy. And his entire essay was on a question like that. And the idea was, look, either you believe omnipotence allows you to do things that involve contradictions, or you don't. If you don't, then you're not going to think that there's a problem with God. He goes, but if you do, if you're assuming that omnipotence actually means you can do contradictory things, then could God make a rock so big that even God couldn't lift it? Yes, he could make a rock so big that God couldn't lift it. And then he could lift it anyway, because he can do contradictions, right? So he said, if you're not drawing the line there, and God can perform contradictions, he says there's no problem. Of course he could build a rock, and yes, then he could lift it anyway, even though there's a contradiction involved, because you've defined omnipotence in that way. Yeah. So anyway, I thought that was cool.
That makes sense. Yeah,
one page essay.
That is pretty good.
So I think we're actually agreeing with Ali Dawah here that this is
Yeah, I can't believe we're saying this, but yes, definitely.
Hey, here you go. Ali Dawah is right.
Wow.
People want to cut that.
That is. I don't know. We have to shut down. This stream is getting worse and worse.
Ask this question. It's like a valid question. I can ask the question: can God cease to exist? Of course not. It's contradictory. It's like me saying, how many days in a week? Yes or no? Yes or no? It's not a yes or no question. I have to ask how many days of a week? 7. So the point is, the question is invalid. So to say, can God create a rock so big that he can't lift? Then the moment he creates that, he becomes not powerful because he can't lift it. There's no such thing that exists. It's just a question that is asked for the sake of it.
I started laughing because I was thinking about what you said earlier, and I was thinking, if he should have responded, it's like me saying, out of 7 days in a week, isn't it? It's not an in it question, isn't it?
In it. Yeah. It's funny. He says such a thing does not exist, which is just his way of speaking, I guess. I don't know.
There be more than one creator?
No, because then we go back to the argument of necessary being. If there was more than one creator, then the question is, how could you have one necessary being which is self-sufficient, independent? If there is another creator,
I don't think anybody who defends, who goes from the necessary being argument, relies on the necessary being itself to argue that it is therefore impossible for multiple gods to exist, or for two gods or more to exist.
There are arguments for claiming that there can't be two, but he has not given it. He's just basically stated if there were two, then one would be dependent on the other. That's not the question. The question is, why can't you have two that are two beings that are independent and self-sufficient, and one does not depend on the other? Could you have 2? Could you have 3? Could you have 5? Could you have 1 million? Could you have 1 million self-sufficient, independent, necessary beings that are not interconnected such that one depends on the other? And this here is a mess.
For example, one thing I think about often is instead of thinking of equal gods, instead of thinking about 2 gods or 3 gods, think about a chain of gods. Like a major god who has gods under him, who has gods under him, demigods, and the god that created the universe is has gods that are superior to that god. How exactly can you refute that with the necessary being argument? It doesn't work. You would have to go to lengths to explain why that would contradict the entire idea of a necessary being. But I don't think you really can, right? So it doesn't make sense that he says this is contradictory with the nature of God as a necessary being.
Yeah, I mean, even if you said like 2 co-equal, independent beings, why couldn't you have that? He's just saying it. He's just saying if you had 2, then one would be dependent on the other. And I haven't seen any defense of that.
Yeah. Terrible.
Then it's dependent. It's not necessary anymore. So the question is, if
I don't think he understands what the term actually is in reference to. I don't think he understands the whole idea of a necessary being. He just uses it. Look at that.
Then the question is, how could you have one necessary being which is self-sufficient, independent? If there is another creator, then it's dependent. It's not necessary anymore. So
he's making a completely wrong assumption here. If you are saying that
circular.
Yeah, it's circular reasoning. So we haven't established that that specific God is a necessary being and must therefore be self-sufficient and independent and this and that, which is why there cannot be any other God. You're just making up a different arguments, different requirements, and then based on those requirements, invalidating the possibility of a different God. You haven't established that specific God is a necessary being and therefore also must be independent and self-sufficient, and there must be nothing else besides it.
Yeah, you could give some probabilistics. I'm not even sure how, but like in Hume's dialogues, Hume says that basically that the evidence leans in the direct. This is at the end after he's gone through design and argument from evil and stuff. But he says that the evidence would lean in the direction of one creator, just because it's not like you find different laws of nature in different places, and therefore you could think different creators. It looks like one whatever made everything, but it's not like haha, it's necessarily true that there could only be one. But I mean, he's not even given that. He's not even given like a probabilistic thing. He's asked, I think the question was, why can't there be two? Because notice that's the next step. You say, why do you believe God exists? Because a necessary being. And one question would be, why do you think that's God? Didn't address that. Another would be, why couldn't the universe or something else be the necessary being? And then the follow-up to that would be, why couldn't there be multiple necessary beings? And he responded, well, if you had two creators, then one would be dependent on the other. But that's circular, right? You're assuming that there can only be one, and the question was, why can't you have two? So he's saying you can't have two, because if you had one and the other one is dependent on it, then it wouldn't be two. Then it would be two necessary beings. One would be dependent. Yeah, we get it.
I actually, to be very fair, I have actually watched a live stream a while ago as I was, I don't know, doing something else. As I was working, I was listening to a live stream that was like hours long, in which different Muslim debaters were responding to the whole question. Okay, but what if there are multiple gods? And they were going into it. After establishing the necessary being argument, they were trying to refute the idea that there could be multiple gods, and they were spending a lot of time with complex arguments to address why multiple gods would not be, an ideal system, or why it would contradict the nature of God, but they weren't relying on the necessary being itself. But it seems that this is what he is doing, and he has dumbed down the whole thing so much it is almost disrespectful, I would say.
Yeah, and what you just said is the point. I mean, you will have philosophers arguing about a contingency argument or something like that. How that would actually go in a philosophical context is someone would put together a formulation of the argument such that he believes he can defend every premise against other philosophers trying to draw attention to any weakness in the argument, and you would present it and other people would criticize it. And what would you do then? You'd go back and try to reformulate it in light of criticism to make it immune to the criticisms and so on. And again, to be fair, Ali Dawah was not, I don't know what he is, but he's not an academic or something. So we're not trying to pick up, because anyone should be able to make arguments for their positions and so on. It's just, why are you going with something that you obviously don't understand very well? You know what I mean? Pick some, there are other things that you could understand better, that your audience could understand better, and that they could actually know if they agree with your argument or not.
And we know he's very arrogant about this, right? I mean, when he had a discussion with me about God and he completely butchered the contingency argument, it was Capturing Christianity who actually made a response to Ali Dawah and said, hey, I agree with your conclusion, but it was a very, you have presented it in a very problematic and incomplete way. So I have a few questions, and here's how you can make it better. And Ali Dawah's response to that was basically, "How dare you, Christian, teach me about God and
You believe in the
disagree.
Trinity? Ha
You
ha!
believe in
You
Trinity.
stupid! You can't
Go educate yourself." And then
by the way, that's interesting because Cameron actually studies philosophy and philosophers and interacts, with it. That's what he does on his channel is constantly interacting with philosophy. And, I've been through the halls of philosophy as undergraduate and graduate, and it's just a completely different vibe. As I pointed out, a philosopher who presents this argument is inviting criticism. I mean, Descartes, when he put out his Meditations on First Philosophy, he sent it out to other philosophers, inviting them to blast him. And he said, "I will include your attacks on my argument when I publish this." So he actually publishes it with other people's critiques of his argument. And so that's what you get. It's, hey, I'm submitting my argument for critical analysis and scrutiny. Why? Because if there's a flaw in my argument, I want you guys to find the flaw so that I can see if I can modify my argument so that it doesn't have that flaw. But if there's a flaw, I want to know it. And yet you get the Dawah guys, and it's, here, let me give you an argument, and it's totally screwed up, and there are all kinds of problems with it. And I clearly don't know much of what I've talked about, much of what I'm talking about, except for memorizing a couple lines that I heard from someone else. And if you point out the flaw, and keep in mind, Cameron wasn't even like attacking him. He's just saying, hey, here's a better version of the argument. Learn this. And it's how dare you? How dare you respond to me? Just totally different vibe. But notice, like one goal for certain people is truth. I want to get to a good argument. And the other is just, I want to sound like I know what I'm talking about. If you're correcting me, then I don't like I know what I'm talking about. And if I start interacting with you and trying to modify my argument in light of your feedback, then all my followers are going to see me listening to a Christian, and then I sound like I'm not, this pillar of knowledge. And I can't have that, because I want my followers to think I know what I'm talking about, even though I clearly don't. And that's what can I say? That's Dawah. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. I had this idea, by the way, before the stream to turn this live stream into a fundraiser, so that every super chat made goes to a fundraiser for the earthquake that happened just in Turkey and also affected Syria, for which the death toll, I believe, rose to over 25,000 people. Yeah, the latest news is Turkey, Syria earthquake death toll passes 28,000. And
Gosh.
that's pretty messed up. I would just like to add that quickly. I would just like to change the settings of this live stream here and turn it into a fundraiser, if I can still do that, so that people can actually donate to that. I would just join somebody else's fundraiser. Somebody made a fundraiser with $1,000 goal, but you can just donate as much as possible. And I believe the super chats go to that.
How's that working? I saw someone made a GoFundMe to go to Syria, and then but there were some rules against sending money to Syria or something, so it got shut down.
Yeah, there are a bunch of cool regulations for Syria.
Yeah, so is it different between Turkey and Syria, and it's okay for Turkey but not in Syria or something like that? That's what.
Yeah,
I've seen several for Turkey. I've seen several for Turkey, and then the one for Syria got shut down. So I don't know if that's just that particular country.
I believe it's not possible to. I'm not entirely sure, but I think because of political things, what's the word? I can't. My mind is currently blank. I can't think of a very basic word.
I mean,
because of sanctions applied to Syria, I believe it's not possible to have direct donations through various channels.
Doesn't that suck? I mean, it's like they're still pulling like people out of the rubble and stuff like that, and you can't even help them if you want to. That's wild stuff.
I believe what is happening is that there are some organizations. I just read earlier today that the United Nations and other organizations are going into Syria to help the affected, and also channeling funds to help the victims of the of the earthquake. But I think the aim here is to prevent money from being handed over to the regime in Syria.
That is always tough. Like that was a problem in like African places. You would have areas where like people are starving and people would want to send a bunch of supplies, but as soon as you bring the supplies in, the warlords take them and then they use them to become more powerful over the people and to give it to people they support rather than people who support them rather than to the actual starving people. And so it is stucky situations.
Yeah. So I just added a fundraiser here, which is a link to a credible fund that established an international charity. It's a very credible, reliable one that you can research online if you have your doubts. Turkish philanthropy funds, which organized a campaign to help the people in Turkey affected by the earthquake. So if you can, if you want to choose to donate, you can just click the hard donate button in the chat section and donate directly to that. And I believe you can make super chats and donate to that. I'm not entirely sure how this works, but yes. So that's.
Oh man, I didn't even ask you, but I'm assuming because you haven't said anything. I'm assuming they're like completely different region from your family background, right? Like totally.
Yeah, I know
different
there.
areas.
Yeah.
Okay.
My family is
That's
like
good.
rather in the northwest,
Okay.
and this happened in the southeastern part, but it was like felt almost all over Turkey, so it's pretty messed up. Anyway, with that,
Truth Serum says, "How tall is David Wood?" The deep philosophical questions. So it's weird. I used to be a little over 6'3", and now I'm like a little over 6'2". So apparently, I just shrank in my old age, and I'm wondering if I'm. Someone put I'm 6'6". I'm not 6'6". No, but I start wondering, am I going to end up like under 6 feet when if I survive and jihadis don't get me? I don't know.
Probably. David is a giant, though. When I first met him, I was like, "What is this, man?" Like I'm standing next to this giant person, and I just look like a normal human. Anyway, let's continue here.
The question is,
someone put shorter than Hijab. Yeah, Hijab's that dude's a monster.
Oh,
sorry, sorry to interrupt.
They would fight each other for power. Yeah. So
go back. That was awesome. He's saying if there are two, then they'd have to fight each other.
Yeah.
More than one creator, then the question is, how could you have one necessary being which is self-sufficient, independent? If there is another creator, then it's dependent. It's not necessary anymore. So the question is, if there was two creators, firstly, Allah says in the Quran, they would fight each other for power. Yeah. So that shows two powers fighting each other are dependent because they require more power to kill the other one. So that's why we believe there has to be.
First off, that point has nothing to do with the necessary being and the dependency. I want to point that out very quickly.
Second, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard anyone say in my entire life.
Yeah, I read that in the Quran myself, and the entire time I just thought, why? Why is that what would necessarily happen? Well, why is that the argument? Is the Quran implying that if there was if there were multiple gods, they would all be hungry for power and would be fighting each other, and there would be chaos in the universe? Why is that what the Quran wants us to believe about a god, about a deity? Because Allah is like that?
Or... Yeah, and notice, so follow the reasoning here. Notice again, the question was, why couldn't there be two necessary beings? And he's saying, because if there were two, according to the Quran, they would have to fight. But if they were fighting, it would mean they're both seeking more power, and therefore that they're both dependent, not necessary. And that is, my goodness.
These things have nothing to do with each other, and you just completely.
Yeah, guys. I mean, because the concept of God is so familiar to us, we're always thinking in these terms. But I mean, if you go back to Aristotle, who had the concept of an unmoved mover, really sounds like that unmoved mover is not paying a lot of attention to anyone else. And I had a philosophy professor once who described it as like, imagine a beautiful woman who's just not paying attention to anyone around her, but she's making everyone else sort of go, oh my goodness, she's everyone around her is moving based on her, but she's not paying attention to anyone. So the idea is, imagine a necessary being that is like that. It's not concerned with power. It's not concerned with going out and making people do something, and yet it's somehow influencing everything around it. And everything could be dependent on it, but it's not the sort of thing that would go around fight. So now imagine if you had two things like that. You could give arguments of why there cannot be two things like that, but this dude ain't doing it.
So my initial, my response to that, the first thing I think of when I read that in the Quran, this is the Quran's reasoning, and I think the Quran is very stupid about that. The Quran basically argues that if there were more gods, then they would just fight. But what I think in response to that is, if you want us to, to accept the idea that God is perfect and he's good, he's the moral standard, he's the best, then I would also expect a better logic here, a better standard of morality, that if there are multiple gods, then they are so wise and so good that it is not possible for them to break out and fall apart and fight each other, because they know in their ultimate supreme greatness and supreme good that this is not ideal, and that this would lead to chaos and to evil. So it would be therefore contradictory to the very nature of God, who is who is the ultimate good, and gods who are the ultimate good, to fight each other and to cause chaos in the world. They are perfect, which is why they are meant to, or why they live in complete harmony. And expecting them to fight each other is not limiting them. It is rather, it is, as said, in contradiction with their ultimately good nature. Why would you expect them to fight each other? And why would you say, therefore, they can't exist?
Yeah, and that's the real problem with what he's saying. So he's saying if there were two, they would fight each other, but you're assuming that they're beings who are like fighting for power or something like that. Why not assume they're perfectly loving and they have nothing but love and respect for each other, and therefore have no desire to fight, and they work together in perfect harmony or something like that? This is guys, keep in mind, guys, I agree that there is a necessary being. I agree. I would be thrilled. I would be thrilled to see a Muslim apologist give an airtight argument for the existence of God. It's just, what concerns me is that I don't know what Dawah is just this chest thumping and pretending and sounding like you know what you're talking about. And I guarantee you, I guarantee if you go through the comments of this video, it's going to be, oh, alhamdulillah, this is so brilliant. Oh my goodness, he has smashed and destroyed all. How can atheists survive this brilliant stuff?
I confirm that's how it is. Even though I am Muslim, this video made my faith stronger. The way Ali Dawah educated himself within years with the confidence he's built is amazing, mashallah. The way he explained this made my iman strong. Oh my gosh, okay.
Welcome to Dawah.
To be one necessary being that is self-sufficient, independent, and necessary.
God created everything. So who created God?
Well, the question is invalid, once again.
This is like that other one, like 80s, like 80s. It was like 80s, like when like I was an atheist in high school. There were only a few people that were like actual atheists. But it sounds like back then, like where atheism was getting started, and people are like coming up with their own ideas, and their kids, and they're coming up with their own ideas about why, like objections and so on. But yeah, well, if God designed this, then who designed God? Well, if God created this, then who created God, and so on. But so anyway, I'm most likely going to agree with him that this is not a great question. So
yeah. I mean, I would say as an objection, just for food for thought, when I talk with somebody who believes in God, because everything has an originator, a creator, a mover. I would play with the thought of some creator of a universe also himself having an originator or having a creator. But this is not something. But this is not a very strong and tough gotcha question that is very hard to answer. It's just a question. It's just a thought. It's not really an argument, you know.
Yeah, the objections that are like this, what they're good for is they're good for correcting sloppy versions of arguments, right?
Yeah.
Like if you were to give a cosmological argument and you were to say everything has a cause, therefore the universe has to cause, and that the universe has to have a cause, and that cause is God. Well, if you started off saying everything has a cause, then it would be, okay, well, if everything has a cause, then what's the cause of God, or something like that. You'd be pointing out, hey, you need to fix your argument. Or if you say everything that's complex has a designer, well, you know, God's complex, so why wouldn't God need a designer? And the response there is to clarify what you're talking about. When I say complex in like biology, I mean there's a bunch of complex parts working together to do something very sophisticated. That's not what you're talking about. You're talking about God. You're not talking about there's a bunch of parts that look like they were put together for a purpose or something like that. And so again, questions like this are really for the purpose of taking simplistic arguments for theism and pointing out a problem so that you have to make your argument better. But yeah, there's no way I would consider this among the toughest atheism questions.
The toughest question, which nobody can answer, but Ali Dawah comes to the rescue. And
who created God then? Can you tell us?
That's the wrong accent, man.
It's an invalid question.
By the way, I added a grape here to the screen just to
grapes.
To make this complete. Yeah.
It's supposed to be like him munching on them.
Yeah, but that's too hard to do right here. Okay. So I hope people can be happy with what we have. All right.
Just because somebody asks this question doesn't mean it's a valid question. Because what we say is we see cause and effect within our universe. It requires a designer. To come and say who created that designer is you haven't understood who the designer is. It goes back to the issue of the necessary being. What's the attribute?
I mean, it is just so there is more to this than just him applying circular logic. It's just he again completely relies on ideas that he didn't establish at all, and also treating this as if this were like an attempt to destroy the idea of God, which I don't know if anyone actually asks it with that intention, but that's not what it should be. You know?
I'm sorry, I'm distracted now because when you're doing the grapes, and I was thinking, how could you have him eating the grapes? But then I remembered this. Way back in the day, they used to have those Hitler parodies, right? Like they take clips from Untergang, right? Untergang. Yeah. So they take clips from Untergang, and then people would dub it. But there was another one that I remember. It was totally pointless. It was called Hitler Likes Cheetos, right? And they just took a little clip where he went like this, and they put it on a loop so that he's going like this. And then they had a Cheeto flying in his mouth. And anyway, then I was thinking, hey, you could do that with Ali Dawah when he does something, and then make it look like he's chewing, and then just have grapes going into his mouth.
This is an important philosophical point.
This is how the Dizzle's mind works. That's why it's so powerful. Thinking of Hitler and Cheetos and Ali Dawah and grapes and
that's fantastic, man.
And the toughest atheism questions.
I'm just meanwhile doing something even more philosophically important and looking for wallpapers of grapes in the background.
But by the way, notice how this I have no problem with more, this is more like street level Islamic apologetics or something like that. So it would just be don't call it the toughest questions. You could call it the toughest atheism questions of like a couple random atheists that we met on the street or something like that. But I mean, imagine if you really wanted to answer the toughest atheism questions. You'd want to go to a bunch of atheists who've been doing this for a while, say, hey, what are your best questions? And then you'd want to scratch off all the weak ones, right? You'd want to scratch off like 95% of just keep the best of the best. And there's nothing that we've looked at so far that would be among the best of the best questions, I don't think.
I mean, think of somebody like I don't know, Graham Oppie or
Yes.
people like that, and I imagine him sitting down here and watching this video as like the toughest atheism questions.
Yeah. Well, if God could God make a rock so big he couldn't lift it? Huh? Didn't think about that, did you? You see, atheism is true. Graham Oppie in the house.
Yeah. I mean, that would be the appropriate thing to do. To like go to Graham Oppie or just listen to his stuff and then engage with that.
And here's the real shame in all of this is, like, at the end of the day, a lot of these issues and arguments are just like difficult, and they take time, and they take time to really think your way through and to think through problems and to reformulate them and so on. But whatever Dawah touches just turns to sounding like you know what you're talking about. That's it. It always does.
Yeah, that was very insulting to Dawah, but let's go.
It's independent. It is self-sufficient. It is necessary. If you acknowledge these attributes, these three things, you need to acknowledge that the question of who created God, can God make a rock so big he can't lift, can God cease to exist, are questions that are not valid. It doesn't exist. The question you're asking,
he keeps saying it doesn't exist. That's
what is it?
The question doesn't exist.
The question doesn't exist. It does. I just asked it. Ha ha. You're finished. You're
because
finished.
if the God that created him, then he becomes dependent now. He's not self-sufficient anymore. So what we say is that this creator, as long as this necessary being is independent, is self-sufficient, is necessary, everything stops there.
He just keeps repeating the same point that he made at the very beginning of this video, to the first question, over and over again, and keeps saying what we say, and nobody's saying it. I mean, it's just him saying it in a very incomplete way. It's very annoying, to be honest. But let's go.
Why Islam when there is many other religions?
Well, that's the question I asked myself before I came to Islam. Why Islam? And when I did my research...
Stop. First off, he didn't come to Islam. Ali Dawah and others like him have this... They tend to make it look like they are converts to Islam who knew nothing about Islam, or they came from... They
went out and did all this research.
Then they did all this research and they concluded, wow, Islam among all these religions is the best, therefore I'm going to convert to... No, that's not the case with him. He grew up in a Muslim Alevi household. Alevis are Muslim-ish people who, most of them, by the way, do believe in the Islamic religion, in the Islamic God Allah, and in Muhammad and all of that. But they have they are a very extreme offshoot of Shia Islam, and many of them don't really practice religion anymore, and they hold Ali, who is one of the caliphs, in higher regards very often than Muhammad himself. He grew up in that family. He was already within a Muslim culture. He just turned away from that and turned toward Islam in his Islamic environment in the UK. So it's not like he was looking for meaning in the world and he found Islam and he was like, among everything that I have seen in this cruel world, this seems to be able to bear the answer to every question that I had. Therefore, I am now converting to Islam. No, that's not what happened. He just went with whatever he found out there. Yeah.
No, it says, and when I did my research, so it's right there on the screen, you've been refuted, AP. He did his research. He says so.
When I did my diligent research and I found the truth of Islam, that's when I knew.
Let's see his awesome research.
Okay, let's see.
And what I was born with the fitrah. There was a study done in Oxford University by Justin Barrett. He found that young kids who are not taught about Islam or Christianity or any other religion, they all had the inclination to believe in one God, not two, not three.
Completely wrong. This guy has never read the actual research. Look, I don't like to brag, but I actually sat down and read the entire research. I actually read the entire research paper. I read the complete report. I read interviews given by by Barrett and some of his colleagues who were involved in the research, and that is not at all the point or the conclusion of that research. Not even close. That's not what the research is about. I mean, I can pull it up. I mentioned it in one of my videos before, which was about the singer Dua Lipa, where this guy's friend, who in our debate fed him grapes, made the same point. He brought up that research, and they are just referencing that research without ever reading it, without ever knowing what it says, without ever really understanding it. But if you actually go to, this is very simple. If you actually look for this, Justin Barrett, and his idea of how children are predisposed to believe in God. You can find the research, you can access the research for free. You can go on Google Scholar. You can find this research on Science Daily, on New Scientist, on many other sources, presented and summarized by him and his colleagues, or you can read the whole file. The idea there is not that children who have never been introduced to the idea of God have it in their nature to believe in only one God. That is completely made up. The research suggests no such thing. The idea there is that children, as they grow up, have the tendency to believe in the supernatural, to believe in supernatural beings, supernatural things. They, for example, he gives an example where he says that a child or children believe that their parents know everything. For example, little children think that that their parents will definitely know what is inside a box whose contents you cannot see. They only later come to understand that this is not true. This was just their idea, their perception of what parents are. They are not all knowing. Similarly, children also try to make sense of the universe, hear about things, and somehow have the tendency to believe that there is a creator, or that there may be creators behind things. And he even brings up that children in religious households are more likely to have that. Children in rural areas are more likely to have that. Children in bigger cities are less likely to have that, and so on. And he specifically says, I should have pulled this up. I had that for that video that I made about this. He specifically says that the point of the research is not to prove God's existence. It is to prove that the humans are, from a very early age, inclined to question and to seek something. And in his esteem, Justin Barrett is a devout Christian. In his esteem, this is a God-given search for God. He admits this. He has a Christian idea, a Christian bias, which he also says. And he says to him, this inclination to find out, to imagine, to figure out is given by God as a means to find the truth of God. But in nowhere in this research is it implied that children have this tendency to reject all kinds of different beliefs and only to believe in one God. That is completely made up by these Muslim apologists. Was it too long? I don't know. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sitting here. I'm reading a discussion of his book on. No, I mean, I find this interesting. I'm not familiar with this, but I'd like to check this out. But I went to Christianscholars.com and looked up their discussion, and much more skeptical and critical than Ali Dawah is here. They're pointing out that he's making interesting points, but he hasn't really shown this, he hasn't really shown that. And the description is that children have a tendency to, he's claiming that they're born believers in the sense that they have a natural tendency to believe in God or gods.
Yeah. See, that's exactly what he says, right? He says God or gods. He never says in one God. Or exclusively in one God. He never said. That's completely made up here.
So there are a couple things here. I mean, notice one. Let me point out something that is the fundamental problem here. If Barrett had done research and found out that kids by nature don't believe in anything that wasn't put there by their parents, would he take this as a problem for Islam? given what Islam says with the fitra. No, he would completely ignore it. It's completely valueless. Who cares what this guy says? So that you've noticed that, right? Because they'll like do this with the Bible, right? The Bible's an easy example. They can read verse 1 of a chapter, contradicts Islam, ignore it. Verse 2 of a chapter contradicts Islam, ignore it. They go all the way down, up verse 18. Here's something we can twist into something that supports Islam. You see, the Bible supports Islam. And they do this. They'll go through, you can look at thousands of quotations by people making fun of Islam. And if someone says, someone like some West-hating person says, yeah, Islam is wonderful, then you see, even they acknowledge that Islam is wonderful. You see, this is the proof of Islam. But the other problem with Dawah is this, that they search everything and will only latch onto something that they think confirms their position, and then they usually have to misrepresent it, like they do with verses of the Bible, or in this case, this guy's research. They'll find something that looks like it supports them, twist it to make it look like it really supports them, ignore everything else that proves them wrong. So that's one issue. This sort of just selective. Let me go through all the evidence and just find the stuff that I can use to support my position. But I mean, so one, if this guy had found something else, a different result, like suppose he had found kids tend to believe in polytheism specifically, like polytheism, and you have to convince them to believe in one God. Would Ali Dawah be citing this as any kind of evidence? No, he would have completely ignored it. It wouldn't prove anything. But notice this is kind of weird, right? Like, little beings who can't clean up after themselves. What do they believe? Let me roll with that, right? There's something weird about that. Now, with that said, I think there's something interesting here. I think there's something interesting, which is why I'd like to check out the book. But the amount of evidence I would draw from something that little babies believe, and then they become toddlers and stuff like this, and something's built into it. I might find it interesting. I could conceivably use it to make a point, but that probably wouldn't be my go-to argument for Islam, which is what this is for him right here.
And I mean, Justin Barrett himself says that that the point is never to prove the existence of God, but rather to establish that children or that humans are born with an innate desire to, with a nature to seek something and to seek God or gods, and to him, this means that humans have a natural, desire to pursue the belief in one God, because in the one God, because that's what God created them with. That's what God gave them. That is only his interpretation of what he finds. But these Muslim apologists take his research, completely twist it, completely distort what he actually says, and then take it and say, well, he proved that children have the tendency to believe only one God, not two gods, not multiple gods. Look, I'm not making this up. I mean, let's listen to that part again here very quickly. That's what he says. Look.
He found that young kids who are not taught about Islam or Christianity or any other religion, they all had the inclination to believe in one God, not two, not three. So to me,
see, he says here very explicitly, very clearly, that Justin Barrett says in his research from Oxford University that young kids have the tendency to believe in one God, not two or three, one God. The research never says any such thing. The research explicitly says God or gods. So Ali Dawah is not somebody who reads. When I asked him, he basically told me that he doesn't read books. Or, so he probably has no idea what the research actually says. But he learned it the wrong way. He learned it the wrong way from his Dawah colleagues, and is now spreading this complete piece of misinformation and basically lying to his audience in order to prove that his idea of God and that his Islam is real. And do you see how problematic?
Books are for losers. But this goes back to what we've been saying over and over again, right? This is for their fans, right? I mean, notice Ali Dawah isn't reading anything. Guess what? Are any of Ali Dawah's fans going and reading this book to see if he's right? No, they just, Ali Dawah said it, let me go with that. But I mean, how does it never cross your mind to question whether this guy knows what he's talking about? Like how do you, what level of manipulative power do you have to have over people that you can just spout one bit of nonsense after the next? And this is like this is what I talk about with Islam's 99-1 rule. If you say something to 100 people and only one person's going to challenge it, keep doing that. You're going to win. Keep doing that. You win, right? You'll be deceiving a greater and greater mob, and that seems to be the Dawah approach. That's the Zakir Naik approach. That was the D-Dot approach. Make stuff up, spout complete nonsense, lie all you want, as long as you sound good to the audience. The people who will actually go and investigate and research what you're saying and determine if you're right or not are a tiny minority. And if you build up a big enough mob, they'll just shout them down, or, in an Islamic context, do worse to them. But it's just like, I mean, how are people still clinging to this?
I mean, look at this. I just did a quick Google research to see what Google brings you when you just search for his name. It's like Ali Dawah mentions a name, he drops a name, he mentions a research. So the easiest, simplest thing that you could do is to go to Google and type Justin Barrett, belief in God. Here you find an interview which comes up on page 1 on Vox, where the reporter actually has a conversation with Justin Barrett. And here is a quote from Justin Barrett himself. Or as he puts it to me over the phone, children have a number of natural dispositions to religious beliefs of various sorts.
No, to Islam. He's wrong about his research. Stupid Barrett.
I mean, here is Barrett himself referenced by Ali Dawah saying that children have natural dispositions to religious beliefs of various sorts. But Ali Dawah comes and mentions Justin Barrett and says he found that children believe in not two or three, no, one God.
One. And Muhammad too. Allah. He found that they come out of the womb praising Muhammad. they come out like Allah praying for Muhammad, not to Muhammad. But no, notice what you just pointed out, right? Like you went to a source and they say what he's talking about. Again, I went to a Christian scholars site by a professor at the article written by Professor John Brown University, but that they say at the beginning of the opening paragraph, given minimum, like this is they're describing what his book shows, given minimum cultural and environmental input, children will walk, talk, and believe in a god or gods. So just notice how, I mean, there seems to be one group that can't help but twist everything. Like
David, hold on. I just went on Amazon to look for his book in which he basically presents that research. In a description of that book, which is published in his name, it says that this comes from Consequences of Children's and Desire to Seek. Wait a minute. Barrett demonstrates that beliefs in gods match up well with these automatic assumptions. Wow. I mean, this is in the description of the very book that is published by whoever took the job for this professor.
Yeah,
man.
But I mean, think about his viewers right now, right? His viewers. His viewers were all, he went out and did all this research. You know what? I went out and did my research because, I went to the scholar from Oxford University. He wrote this book after all this research and concluded that everyone was born monotheistic, just like his own teacher. This is what the fitra. Everyone was born as a Muslim. Their parents convert them to something else right this. And everyone's like, oh, this is the proof. How can anyone deny this? I don't know. By doing 30 seconds of research. Yeah, by doing 30 seconds of not mindlessly believing one of the biggest liars I've ever met in my entire life.
I mean, you don't even have to read the actual research. You don't even have to read the research. You can just look up simple information that you can Google, and you can within 30 seconds come to the conclusion that he's completely distorting.
All you have to look up is the first paragraph of any review by anyone who actually read it, unlike Ali Dawah. And this was his go-to point. This was the go-to slam dunk argument.
And I will tell you one thing, and I will tell you and everybody else, and Muslims as well, one thing. Even if we sit here and point out and prove that Ali Dawah and his friends are completely distorting this research, even if we prove it and we show it and we put it on the screen, and if Ali Dawah sees it, they will still not acknowledge this. They will still go on and cite that research as their proof that children are born with an innate belief in Allah. They will not correct themselves. They will not apologize. They will not say, guys, we were wrong. We cannot use this anymore. They will continue doing this because they don't care about truth.
Yeah, and I was who was I just talking about this? Was I talking to? Yeah, I was talking to Nuria because she's you know, she's younger, and I was telling her, like, you know, it seems like you can't make progress, but you know, if you look back over 10 or 15 years, you'll see the progress. I was saying, you know, you go back to 2007, 2008. We couldn't find anyone who agreed that Aisha was 9 years old when Muhammad married her. We couldn't find practically anyone who admitted that there's a death penalty for apostasy. Now, tons and tons and tons of Muslims admit it. Back then, you couldn't find one Muslim who would admit that there is any one letters difference between any two Qurans in all of history. You couldn't find anyone. Now you find them all. Now you find lots of them, and so on. So the progress takes place. But like Ali, when Ali Dawah gives an argument like this, AP's right in the sense that we're pointing this out right now. One, he'll still use it and his followers will still eat it up, and you could show them and they will not care. They'll even still use it after you show them and refute them. The only thing that stops that is like 10 years of ridicule. 10 years of ridicule showing them how stupid and insane and idiotic this is and what horrible liars their Dawah guys are. But by that time, they've latched on to new false claims, right? And that's how it is. It's let's make 50 false, completely ridiculous arguments that are based on nothing but deception, but we know that no one knows what we're talking about. No one's researched this, so we can say whatever we want. We can say that the Quran's been perfectly preserved. We could say that you know, the Quran is filled with scientific miracles. We know our target audience has no clue what we're talking about, so we can make up anything we want. By the time you spend a decade getting those arguments to sort of fall from popularity, they've latched onto it. They've latched onto other arguments, and that seems to be the goal. Just keep feeding people wave after wave after wave of deception to keep everyone lulled to sleep until by birth rates Islam takes over, and then no one is able to question the claims of the Da'is. But I mean, think of it, guys. What does the true religion need? This does the truth need this sort of method?
Of course, truth is deception. Yeah.
If Allah is the best of deceivers, then Allah is the truth, and the truth is deception. Ha.
Yeah, well, we have to deceive the disbelievers for Allah.
Anyway,
I have in myself
years of research. Years of
research have shown this, man. Me, I have this in myself.
To believe in one God. But the question was, why Islam? I asked the same question to myself. And when I looked into it, I realized true monotheism in its true sense. Because if you go to the Christians, they say we're monotheists. And they believe 3 in 1. You go to the Hindus, they say we believe 1 million gods is one. The point is this: pure monotheism in his worship and understanding of who God is only in Islam.
Okay, now we will come to the objections, right? We will come to the objections and to his disagreements with the nature of God and Christianity and Hinduism and all of that. I'm just wondering one thing.
I'm not even thinking about that. Go ahead.
Will he ever mention Judaism? I'm just wondering.
Oh yeah. What about you? Yeah. Why not? And really, guys, you know what pure monotheism is called? Monotheism, right? That's what pure monotheism is called. In fact, I have to say, like a lot of people who are classified as deists are actually monotheists in the sense, because deism is described as like a god winds everything up and sets it in motion and then completely ignores everything. If you look at a lot of the deists, they believe in providence and a god you could pray to and things like that. So they're actually like monotheists who dropped a lot of stuff that they didn't believe from the Bible, and they drop miracles and stuff like that, but they still believe in a God you pray to, and a God who listens to you, and a God who is helping people and so on, a God who grounds rights. And so notice, I mean, if you're just saying one God, guys, Islam is not just pure monotheism. I mean, in fact, I can't even, they have so much pagan nonsense in there, I can't even consider it pure monotheism. But suppose it was like pure monotheism. It's monotheism plus the biggest bunch of silly nonsense about Muhammad the universe has ever seen, right? It's one God and sex with a 9-year-old girl. And, you know, it's like this massive package deal. If you want to say, hey, suppose Barrett's research had shown that little babies naturally believe in one God. Suppose you want to say, you know, whatever little babies believe, that's the religion for me. And they just believe in one God. Well, great. That's called monotheism. Be a monotheist. Right? Where are you getting this? Oh, and Muhammad. And Muhammad. Where are you getting that from? Anyway.
Just precisely. I mean, I could say I'm a pure monotheist because I believe in nothing but one God, and that is it. Okay, well, I'm a pure monotheist, but no, that's not enough for Islam. That's not enough for Dawah. He says pure monotheism is believing in Islam. In Islam, where you believe in Allah and in Muhammad and the Quran and all the rules in there, and in, you know, accepting this guy as perfect example for all humankind when he rapes and takes sex slaves and marries a child. No, that is pure monotheism. Well, sorry, that just doesn't work, man.
And you know, it's weird. It's like, I think the number of like just generic monotheist is actually, I think that's actually a lot of people. I think there are a lot of people who, you know, hey, you believe in God? Yeah, I believe in God. You pray? Yeah, you know, I pray sometimes, stuff like that. You know, will you go to church and believe in God? Not really. So you have tons of people who just believe in God. Where are you getting all this extra stuff about Muhammad from, and about the religion, about and you have to go to this cube and well, you know what the research showed is that children like little blocks. They like little blocks with the letters on them, but that's like the Kaaba. You see that it's built into them. It's the feature. They love the Kaaba. They go to the Kaaba. It's like, come on.
Oh boy. All right.
Not only that, also when it comes to the Quran,
this reminds me. They actually Hamza Sten and others gave me this argument for when I challenged them about whether the Kaaba is related to Abrahamic religion or not. They actually went there and gave an argument to me after I was gone in a video that Jews wear these things, you know, these blocks on their head and around their arms in worship.
Phylacteries?
And that just
Phylacteries
shows
of little scripture boxes. Yeah.
Yes, and that shows that they have a connection from ancient times to the Kaaba.
Wait, weren't these what was this the same group that tried to argue and said, but you know, David ran from Saul, so where else would he have run?
Same people.
He ran to Arabia. Yeah, we did a live show because we actually pulled it up. We're like, are you serious? Yeah. David's running away from Saul, and we like drew it on the map, like he runs all the way down. It's like, oh my goodness.
They actually resorted to that. They actually resorted to Jews wearing the little, containers, the little boxes with scripture in them for religious purposes, which over time became boxes, by the way, which were not always boxes. As argument that they have a connection with the Kaaba.
And that's based on scripture. I mean, that's based on scripture. You have the stuff on your clothes and stuff like that. You're supposed to write it on your doorposts and stuff like this. You're supposed to carry it on you and so on and so.
And they're like, this proves that they are related to the Kaaba.
Yeah, notice this ties into everything we're saying, that like they'll search a million different things and look for one thing that they can twist and take it as conclusive proof of their position. And it's like, guys, you could defend any position, no matter how absolutely insane, using that method. Take any ideology, any theory, any conspiracy theory you want in history, and using that method where you scan everything that's, you know, all evidence, and you pick out the couple of things that you could twist into agreeing with you, and then you proclaim those things to be conclusive proof. Guys, I mean, that's Dawah. That's what it is. And it's like, as a rule, if the method you use could be used to prove anything true, you probably need a new method.
Yeah, I'm just reading here right now again. Originally called tefillin, only over time it became a tradition to turn them into boxes and have them as boxes. Otherwise, they were just wrapping scripture around in a container that looks random. But yeah, This is Muslim apologetics, man. What a religion.
It is the only scripture on this planet that is being preserved and has miracles that we can see. For example, if I go to a Christian and I say, look, I want to believe in Christianity, show me. You say Jesus gave life to the dead and this, that, with the permission of God. Show me.
It's in the Quran. Wait, it's in the Quran.
Or if you go to the Jews and say Moses did that, show me. Can they show you? No, they can't. If they come and say to us, what's the miracle of the Quran? We'll say, here's the Quran and we can show you. Touch it.
Okay, I touched the book. Then what happens then? I don't understand the point here.
You don't know. If you don't know, hang on. He's right. It's like a charge of electricity.
What is this, man? Like, what is this? If you ask a Christian about, Jesus brought people back to life and Moses, split the sea, they cannot show it. Where is it? Show me. But we have the Quran. You can touch it. Here, touch it. I'm touching it right now. Look at it. What was he trying to convey exactly here?
I ate it and I didn't get that out of it, so I don't know.
What exactly is he trying to convey? I do not understand. By the way, I talked about this a few days ago. I called David on the phone because I thought it was hilarious, and I talked to him about how I used the AI chatbot, ChatGPT by OpenAI. I actually asked it to imitate the style of the Quran, and then asked it to write a text about pizza in the style of the Quran. It actually did. And then I asked it to write about computers in the style of the Quran, and it actually did. So, if it's a miracle, the way the Quran is written, then, an AI bot nowadays can imitate it and write something better that is actually true, right? Something that actually refers to computers, for example. So if that is the miracle, if this text here, the way it is written is the miracle, then I'm not sure if we can accept that, man.
But notice, notice what he was saying there. He was saying Christians and Jews rely on miracles that were in the past, so they're historical, but you can't touch them now. And so any miracle you believe, but notice he's ruling out the possibility of defending a miracle by evidence.
You can touch the Quran.
Yeah. So notice if like a thousand people, here's what's funny. If like 1,000 people came to me and they had all witnessed someone, rising from the dead or, anything, then according to Ali, then you shouldn't believe them. You can't believe them because you're not touching it yourself. But think about this. Any claim he's making, are people really like touching it? No, they're all mindlessly believing what Ali Dawah says.
Yeah.
Like everything. He's not giving any actual evidence. But notice, because this ties into everything
you can saying, touch Ali Dawah. So.
Yeah. Notice it ties into everything we're saying. He makes it sound like Islam is special, even though it's ridiculous, right? He's making it say, see, we're different because we got the proof that you could touch the Quran. See that we can touch it. See, and of course he's gonna because the miracle of the Quran and this is I found a miracle here when I did all my research. But what are you doing? You're just going to believe what Ali Dawah says. That's what you're going to do. You're not going to actually do any bit of real research. You're just going to believe that, because Ali Dawah, the guy who can't accurately say anything, he can't get an argument right. He can't respond to anything correctly. He can't say he's bringing up a book as part of his research and he's completely misrepresenting it. But that's the guy you're going to mindlessly believe when he tells you, see, I got the miracle waste right here because I could touch it. And that makes Islam totally different.
I also want to ask a simple thing. Muslims often bring up that Muhammad is, of course, a legitimate prophet because there are proofs of prophethood, like the miracles that he performed and things like that. And one of the famous ones that are brought up very often is the moon being split in two. I want to ask Ali Dawah and Muslims, can you please show me that miracle? Can I please touch it?
I can prove he split Aisha's moon.
Stop it. But yeah, I mean, fail, bro.
You can feel, you can analyze it. Why? Because also we learn from this, the Quran is for all mankind, and you can see it, you can hear it, you can examine it. But the miracles that the other prophets done, you can never prove that.
But if we analyze it and we come to the conclusion that it is ridiculously stupid and false, and they're like, no, you're lying, you're evil. So apparently, I don't know, it doesn't work, man.
That's why that was for that time specifically. And the Quran is for all times, because we have a method, an oral tradition, which is the Quran, which we and many generations after us can examine. And that's what I did before I came to Islam. I examined.
That is such an idiotic point. I mean, he even mentioned the oral tradition right now.
We're the only people who had the oral tradition where I heard it from so-and-so, who heard it from so-and-so, who heard it from so-and-so, who heard it from so-and-so, and we all trust that. We all trust that.
I don't know if I have ever been, if I've ever made such a terrible mistake that I just contradicted with my whole point entirely.
Yeah.
By mentioning oral tradition and how, you know, we had the oral tradition. You know, all the other people, they cannot prove anything. They cannot show you anything. They just make claims. But we have the oral tradition.
Yeah, So notice that. But notice how that ties into the other problem. Because you know you can't trust people testifying about seeing a miracle, but the Quran has been preserved. How would you know that?
Well, we have the oral tradition, man.
Yes, that's what I mean. You'd have to like be going back and looking at some historical records and stuff. I mean, what? and oh my goodness.
We have the oral tradition, David. What do you want?
I examined it. See? You see, I examined it.
Well, oh boy.
I read it. I looked at the prophecies. I looked at the miracles. I said, this can be no other than by from Allah.
I'm pretty sure that's not how it happened, but yeah. Whatever.
I talked to the babies. I said, what do you believe? They said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I said, I have to believe this then.
There was this different Muslim convert who was an actual convert who, in his explanation on why he converted to Islam, he explained how he traveled the world and he went to Buddhist temples and spent time there and then saw what they do and thought it doesn't make sense. They're basically praying to the statues that are in front of them. And I thought, so wait a minute, that's not what Buddhists actually do. You know? So that's not what they are actually doing in the temples with the statues. So I mean, I don't really buy that part. So and now I'm beginning to question the whole idea that you actually traveled around the world and researched all religions. Yeah, but here you even see it with this guy.
Yeah, notice that if you said that, oh, you know, looks like they're doing it. Okay, what's it look like Muslims are doing at the Kaaba? What's it look like Muslims doing at the Kaaba? Exactly. They're all bowing down to a cube. Oh, but you know, because the Jew got the block, so it's okay. And the kid had they play with the block, so it's fitra. And then they're gonna go kiss a black stone. What is this? What does this look like? I mean, it looks like pure paganism.
Yeah. Obvious, you can't buy that. And there I concluded that Islam is definitely not pure monotheism, it is paganism. So I went for a different religion. Yeah, that's how it happened.
You told us that there are miracles of the Quran. Yeah. Can you please just tell us one miracle of the Quran?
Oh boy.
Finally we get to the miracles.
Oh no, please.
If he says perfect preservation, I'm pushing this computer off the desk.
I am betting he will go for one of the things. Maybe I saw parts of this. I don't know. I don't want to make a guess now. But I think the Romans thing.
I don't think they use science anymore because like Hamza Tsortzis, was it Hamza Tsortzis who blasted them for it?
He said we shouldn't do it. Yeah.
So yeah, they've it's interesting. I mean, it's interesting, and this would tie in what I was saying about, you know, when I was talking to Nuria about how you don't see the things change like in a period of days or weeks or months. You see it change over 10 years and so on. 12, 13, 15 years ago, that was the go-to argument. Everything was perfect preservation of the Quran and scientific miracles. That's all you ever heard from Dawah guys constantly. And notice now now they'll just say preservation. They don't want to say perfect preservation. Like it's perfect. It's the only preserved book, right? And then science is you hear it from like guys who don't know any better online who are still watching old soccer night clips, but the Dawah guys are pulling back. Interesting.
Yep.
No science.
I'm going to be generous here. I'm going to give you 3. Yeah, you have to be generous sometimes in life, you know. The first one is, I think, very profound and very important, because what we are told, for example, that in Surah Balad, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about Abu Lahab. And this is very interesting. Because
Oh boy, are you kidding me, man?
Yeah,
Are you kidding me?
we've heard this one.
Oh boy. I can't.
Yeah, this is the one where the Quran says Abu Lahab. Yeah, there's a short surah. What is it? 10. Gosh, 10.
Yeah, it's one of
108.
the,
Yeah, it's one of the short ones. It's one close to the end. But yeah, Abu Lahab, he and his wife, they're gonna burn. They're gonna roast in hell. And
oh boy.
And see how could Muhammad have possibly known that?
So stupid. Let's listen to it.
Because Abu Lahab could make one statement and the whole of Islam will fall on the ground. Allah says in the Quran about Abu Lahab and his wife that they are going to enter the fire, hellfire. They're going to die as disbelievers and enter the hellfire. Now, if you think about it, Abu Lahab, he had to do one thing and disprove Islam. Because the Quran declares you're going to go hellfire, you and your wife, and you're going to die as a disbeliever. So the thing is this, they could have gone, Abu Lahab could have said, hold on a second, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. There you go. Your religion is false. Because your religion says I'm going hellfire. Your religion says I'm going to die as a disbeliever. I accept Islam. He didn't do it. He died as a disbeliever. To me, that is profound. Because he had to do one statement to disprove the whole. They wanted to stop Prophet Muhammad, yeah? With everything. He just had to do 10 seconds of the Shahada and crumble the whole religion. He didn't.
Okay, I want to bring up a very basic point here, or a few very basic thoughts that I have on my mind right now. So this is significantly the dumbest thing that I've heard so far in this video, and it's very surprising since we're listening to Ali Dawah.
It can't be, because this was his great research that convinced him that Islam is true, and back when he was a devout atheist.
Yeah, but I have to bring up something here, which is, so his idea is the Quran says in chapter 111, in a very short chapter, it says, "May the hands of Abu Lahab be ruined, and ruined is he. His wealth will not avail him, or that which he gained. He will enter and burn in a fire of blazing flame, and his wife, the carrier of firewood around her neck, will be a rope of fiber." That's what the Quran says in this very short chapter. The whole chapter here, the little chapter, is basically just about condemning Abu Lahab and promising that he will be in the hellfire together with his wife. Now, if we look at the tradition, this was revealed by Allah in response to Abu Lahab being like very opposed to Muhammad and ridiculing him and opposing him, and basically, I'm not sure if I remember the entire context here, but he was basically mocking Muhammad's gathering of people for Allah's message, and he was like, "Did you call us here for this?" And Allah condemned Abu Lahab for his behavior, for his rejection, for his arrogance, for his hostility toward Muhammad, and promised him hellfire. And see what happened in the end. Abu Lahab never became a Muslim. No, he died as a disbeliever, and therefore he will now go to hell. He will not be saved from hellfire like the others. So Muhammad could have never known that he would never convert and go to hell, and therefore this proves that the Quran is miraculous. Are you dumb? Now, if, hypothetically, Abu Lahab at some point in his life changed his mind and converted to Islam, there would be certain things that would happen. Number one, the people who compile the Quran would disregard these verses, these chapters, and not turn them into Quran verses. This could be one possibility, right? We know of many verses in the Quran that were removed, or that were caused to be forgotten, that were replaced by other things, that Allah replaced with new verses, with better verses, for some weird reason. Possibility number two, if this verse was still in the Quran and Abu Lahab eventually converted to Islam, and we asked Muslims nowadays, we asked Ali Dawah nowadays, we told him, hey, the Quran says that this guy will go to hellfire, but didn't he in the end convert to Islam? Ali Dawah would give us a response and say, no, the Quran was just warning him. The The Quran was just saying that in his current state, with all his hostility, that's what will happen to him. But Abu Lahab learned from this warning. Such a great enemy of Islam learned from this warning, and he repented and changed. This is actual proof that that you can change and that you can find Allah, and He can then forgive you. This is just a warning. They would twist this. They would make it somehow fit, or another possibility, which I was just thinking of. Oh yeah, they would say, well, he was a Muslim apparently, but in the end, we don't know what happened. Maybe he died as a disbeliever. So there would be all kinds of different explanations, all kinds of different means to resolve this problem if he indeed converted to Islam. So therefore, you cannot say that he would have, that this would have destroyed Islam, if this guy had converted to Islam. No, you could resolve this issue anyway. Muslim apologists like Dawah are sleazy and find multiple ways to resolve this. But if we come to the actual reason why the Quran condemns this guy, the Quran condemns this guy because he is opposed to Muhammad and his message. So think about it. Muhammad reveals the Quran, which comes from Allah, to the people. This guy opposes Muhammad, and Muhammad gets angry and condemns this guy, which then turns into Quran verses. Now, if I want to go out and spread a message and people insult me, and I then say something terrible about them, am I increasing or decreasing the possibility that they will in the future join me and my message? I am decreasing it. I am pushing them further away. So it's no surprise that Abu Lahab did not convert to Islam in the end. What Islam did with this is to push him away and to create a self-fulfilling prophecy. I'm sorry, I took away all the gold here. David would go on.
No, I mean, just think about it. I mean, keep in mind, guys, the Quran is not a book back then. It's just a collection of things that guys are memorizing and running around and reciting. And then Muhammad's followers are enraged so much at you that they start reciting this. He's going to burn in hell. 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 According to Ali Dawah, what a person would have done in that situation is go, all these guys are saying I'm going to burn in hell. Oh, well, I'll convert and join them. And then, well, then I'll be destined for paradise because I've converted to this religion, and I won't go to hell. I will refute Islam.
I will become one of them to own the Muslims, basically.
Yeah. Notice. I can say right now, Ali Dawah will not blaspheme Muhammad. He will not openly blaspheme Muhammad. Think about this. If I say Ali Dawah will not openly blaspheme Muhammad and mock all of Muhammad's followers and renounce Allah and spit on the Quran, he won't do it.
Wow.
I just said it. If Ali Dawah does not do those things that I've just said, he won't do, then he will have to admit that I'm a slam dunk prophet. If he doesn't do that, because I mean, think
I will go one step further.
Yeah,
and argue
all he would have to do to prove me wrong is, spit on the Quran and mock Muhammad, and that's all he'd have to do. That's all he'd have to do, ladies and gentlemen. So is he going to do it? No. And if not, then, well, if he doesn't ever do it, then all his future fans after he dies will have to admit that I'm a true prophet, and it's indisputable.
I will go even further, David, and I have the liberty to say this as a person who does not follow a certain religion. If Ali Dawah in the end indeed doesn't do these things, as you prophesied, then I will argue that you are possibly the God that I have been looking for in my life. And I might actually become a believer.
So keep in mind, if Ali Dawah does not spit on the Quran and renounce Muhammad, he's going to be causing the apostate prophet to conclude that I'm God. Will he do it? Will he do it? No. Will he do it? If he doesn't do it, he's proving my point. He's proving, and the apostate prophet is gonna believe in me as his deity, the necessary self-sufficient one.
Yeah, and Ali Dawah is hereby responsible for creating a new religion, a whole new religion here.
And by the way, going back to what you were saying. Okay. Notice Ali Dawah was saying, Christians They have to talk about, Jesus doing miracles way back in the day. He, feeding. How do you know that happened? How do they know that happened? Well, they'd have to listen to what people said a long time ago. How do if Jews want to say Moses split the Red Sea? How are they going to do that? They can't show you that now. Okay. How do we know that this chapter wasn't written 30 years after Abu Lahab's death?
What are you talking about? You can touch it. Here, touch it.
Yeah, we can touch it.
Touch
how
it.
do we know that it wasn't written 30 years after his
No,
death?
no. You're not understanding. Touch it.
Guys, do you see the problem? The only base. I mean, we think this is completely ridiculous that you'd say, this guy's gonna burn in hell. So's this evil whore wife. And you say, oh, he would have converted to that. If he doesn't, then it shows it's a miraculous prophecy. But suppose you just said, I don't believe Muhammad ever said that until after this guy was dead. How would you know that he didn't? You'd have to what? Prove it historically, right? You'd have to go back, but that's what we can't do according to Ali Dawah, because then you're not putting your finger on Abu Lahab dying. You're not touching that. You can't believe historical testimony about these things. So notice, you can touch the Quran all you want. This does not prove that it was written before Abu Lahab died. Doesn't prove it. Touch it all day. I say, it's not proving anything. You'd have to do historical research to prove it. But that's precisely what you can't use to understand that miracles have happened according to Ali Dawah. It's like he can't say anything without contradicting what he said 10 seconds earlier.
I'm here to disprove you, David. I'm here to disprove you. Here. What? You're destroyed. I destroyed you, man.
You touched it.
I'm destroying you right now. You're finished. You're finished, boy.
Gosh, I'm finished.
Oh, boy. Okay. Yeah, let's go.
Number two, there is an evidence, for example, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about in the Quran about the time of Moses and the time of Yusuf alayhi salam, yeah? And Allah talks at the time of Yusuf alayhi salam, he calls the ruler a king.
Oh, boy.
At the time of Moses, he calls him a pharaoh. But in the Bible, they call the time of Yusuf alayhi salam, and they call him a pharaoh. And at the time of Moses, they call him a pharaoh. This is historical error. Because when they deciphered the Rosetta Stone, it's a thing, to understand the Egyptian hieroglyphics, they found out that there was no pharaohs at the time of Joseph. This dynasty didn't exist. There was kings. How did the Quran know this?
So when they, I find it funny how he said the Rosetta Stone, this thing.
It's a thing. You can touch it. You could touch it.
Yeah, it's an ancient tablet which was used to make the first translation, to put two texts in different languages together and to figure out what they actually mean, which helped figure out the Egyptian language.
Yeah, I think it had like 3 languages on it, and it helped translate, because they couldn't bridge the gap, but now they had this stone that allowed them to bridge the gap between different languages.
That's why it's very, very significant to linguistics and to translation in history and all that. But here's the issue. So his argument is that the Quran mentions Pharaoh as one person and another person just as ruler, and this corresponds correctly with the time where the pharaohs were around and another time where pharaohs were not around. I have a very simple response to this. The Quran sees pharaoh as a certain individual and uses a title as a name for that individual, while it doesn't refer to the other individual as pharaoh, because the other person is not pharaoh. Pharaoh is a specific person within the Quran. That's it. That's all it is. It is as simple as that. The Quran doesn't acknowledge pharaoh as a title of a ruler. It acknowledges Pharaoh, as a specific person. And that's how Muslims knew it forever, that there is a specific person named Pharaoh. That's it. It's really as simple and as stupid as that.
There are a lot of problems. Can we pull up some passages?
Probably. Probably. This is
pull up the Quran real quick. You got the Quran?
the Quran. Yes. Here. Yeah, I have the
You got the Quran?
here.
No, weirdo. I mean on the screen. Where you been?
No, that's what I'm doing right now. I'm just messing with you. Wait. Yes. What do you want?
Go to Surah 50, verses 12 to 14. 50 verses 12 to 14.
What the hell what did Quran.com turn into, man? Dude, wait. Quran. What did you say? Surah what?
Surah 50.
50. Okay.
12 to 14.
12 to 14. 12 to 14. Right, let's look at that then.
You get a chronology of people who rejected the truth before Muhammad. You get this chronology. Now look at this. Now, follow the reasoning here, because it's proceeding chronologically. The people of Noah denied before them, and the companions of the well, and Thamud, and Ad, and Pharaoh, and the brothers of Lot. Pay attention. The brothers of Lot are contemporaries with Abraham. So they're before Joseph. No, Ali Dawah's claim is that, before the time of Joseph, pharaohs weren't called pharaohs. Okay. The people of Lot are contemporaries with Abraham, who's before Joseph. And who do you have before the people of Lot? Pharaoh. That's interesting. I thought there was no pharaoh before that time. It's called Pharaoh.
Wow. Okay.
Wow.
That's it.
So that's why. Let me.
وفرعون
Wow.
وعاد وفرعون وإخوان لوط.
So the point being made here is Pharaoh is a name used for a certain individual in the Quran, and chronologically the Quran is all messed up.
Let's go to a.
Yeah.
Let's go to the problem. Sending this link.
There's so many different problems here. So many different.
I just sent you a Wikipedia link.
Wikipedia. Look at this. He looks at Wikipedia.
It's basically it's the first one. It's the first one I popped up. I just wanted to make a point about pharaohs.
Look at this. He learns from Wikipedia.
Now think about this. This is
go ahead.
This is Narmer. Narmer, meaning what's that? Painful catfish. That's a pretty cool name. What's your name? Painful catfish. Stinging catfish. Harsh catfish. Or fierce catfish. Check out the dates. 3200 to 2900 BC, somewhere in there. He's somewhere in there. Not exactly sure where. But that is long before the time of Abraham and Joseph and so on. Was an ancient Egyptian pharaoh. Wait, so there's a pharaoh way before Ali Dawah says there were pharaohs? By the way, do you know why that? You know why that is? It's because we just started calling all the Egyptian kings pharaohs.
Yeah,
that's why. But he's saying, but the Bible calls him pharaoh before. Pharaoh was this official title or something like that, and therefore the Bible gets it wrong. But the Quran calls the Egyptian ruler during the time of Joseph king and not pharaoh. So he understood that, but. Wait a minute, that it's standard practice to refer to all those guys. But why? Because that's how we distinguish and make it clear that we're talking about Egyptian rulers. We call them pharaoh.
Yeah.
We call them pharaohs.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna have one.
It was officially used after a certain period, but it is now used as a general term to refer to the rulers.
Yeah, and so, but when the Bible, if the Bible does it, then that's because it's an error. All right, one more, and this will be the article from which I can guarantee that this is where Ali Dawah got this from.
Okay.
Did you send it? Yeah, I sent it over in the chat here. It's Islamic awareness.
Islamic awareness. Yeah.
All right, now scroll down. I'm looking for where they quote Encyclopedia Britannica. Go down, see the quotation here, because it's going to hang on.
Where do you see it? Here?
Hang on. Let me start.
Here.
Is that the?
It cites Encyclopedia Britannica here.
Oh, here we go. Perfect. So this is the article that proves Ali Dawah's case. What does modern Egyptology tell us about the rulers of Egypt when they were?
Wait, you read it wrong. It says, "What does modern Egyptology tells us?" Okay, go ahead.
Okay. What does modern Egyptology tells us about the rulers, isn't it? About the rulers of Egypt, isn't it? When they was called the pharaohs. Based on all my research, the Encyclopedia Britannica, which is where I got my research, informs us of the pharaoh. Right, here we go. From the Egyptian, it's given the background. Originally, notice they're quoting this as evidence, and they don't see the problem. Right? Originally, the royal palace, the palace was originally called Pharaoh back way back in the day, right? Then they started referring to a person as an epithet of respect. So the word came to be used as a synonym for the Egyptian king. So you can call him king or pharaoh. It's a synonym. Under the New Kingdom, starting in the 18th dynasty, so then you have the dates there. And by the 22nd dynasty, so all the way up to 945 to 730, it had been adopted as an epithet of respect. The term has since evolved into a generic term for all ancient Egyptian kings, right? So after that, people started using this to refer to any ancient Egyptian king. Watch this. Although it was never formally the king's title. Wait a minute. In the Quran, it's a name. It's more than it's more than. So look, notice what they're saying. And they're quoting this as evidence, and they do not see what they just quoted. They're saying it was never formally even a title. It's not even a title. It's not even a title that, oh yeah, now we start calling them pharaohs. It's just this epithet of respect. So note it. This is
so stupid. They're actually giving us the source without paying attention to what it actually says, or without comprehending what it actually says.
Yeah, and look at that. They like highlighted the part in the middle while ignoring that it was never formally a title. So notice, guys, there are two possibilities here, right? Either as this, because you can learn two things from this. One, you can learn it is perfectly acceptable, standard practice to just refer to Egyptian kings as pharaohs, even if it's before the title was used. Second, it was never formally a king's title. So if you're saying, hey, pharaoh, that's not a title. That's not how it was used. For even later, it says it was never the king's title. So, but they're quoting this as evidence. Either way, they're wrong. There are two things you can gather from this. Either way, you're wrong. But this is Ali Dawah's careful research that showed him that Islam is true and the Quran is the perfect word of Allah. Why? Because it's the same thing over and over again. Someone who's reading this, looking for evidence for Islam, are they going to pay attention to the fact that what's being quoted here completely refutes what they're saying? No, they're going to go, oh, wow. They're quoting Encyclopedia Britannica. Must be a slam dunk case. Wow, Islam is true. So powerful. I mean, look, they used the word Egyptology. They said Egyptology. That's so powerful. And my goodness, the Encyclopedia Britannica, who could argue with that? And then the paragraph they quote completely destroys it. And none of them will even notice. Even though that article's probably like 15 years old and it's still up and they still don't realize the problem.
I saw that Mohammed Hijab last year or so made a short video in which he brought this up as a great miracle which proves Islam true and Christianity wrong or something like that. And I'm pretty sure that Ali Dawah, you're giving him too much credit. Ali Dawah didn't even look at this article. He just got it from his friend Mohammed Hijab.
That's true. Someone wrote the article, Islam which is supposedly Islamic scholarly site, where they do exactly what the Dawah guys, they sift through stuff looking for stuff that confirms them, not even understanding it. But if it sounds like they know what they're talking about, the da'is will use it, and the da'is use it, and then they go out and use it, and then you get second hand, third hand, fourth hand passing it around, and they're still using it. And I guarantee you, when Ali Dawah's fans were watching this, oh my goodness, it is a miracle. It's so powerful. Oh my, he's right. I can't touch this. Oh wow, Pharaoh. Oh my goodness. Encyclopedia Britannica, so powerful. What is this religion?
It is so stupid, man. It is incredibly stupid. But again, to point it out, I always wanted to make a video about this. I just haven't really gathered it in my head well enough to turn it into a proper article or argument to create a video. But I think it is it's completely problematic on the Quran's part itself, that it treats, and therefore Muslims have treated since then, Pharaoh as a specific guy. It's like it's one guy. And people still say sometimes, like, they use Pharaoh metaphorically, and they were like, how will you stand before Pharaoh? Like, do you remember how they were, oppressed by Pharaoh? They went to Pharaoh, and they know Pharaoh as one single guy. It is his name. It's not everybody. It's not all the rulers. It's just that one guy. That's Pharaoh. That's Pharaoh, without adding an article in front of it. That's how Muslim tradition has treated it. That's how the Quranic scripture has treated it forever. And that, I think, is a problem in and of itself. But yeah, it's not a miracle. Yep. It's a miracle against Islam.
Are you serious? But by the way, notice how did you even know any of this? How did you even know, like, any of this stuff about Pharaoh? Is that what you're going to do history? I thought we're not allowed.
No. Yeah, it's weird.
The Quran copies the Bible. The Quran copied from the Bible. Why didn't the Quran copy the mistake? And how?
Yeah, because the Bible calls him Pharaoh, even though it's standard practice to call all the Egyptian kings Pharaoh. Not, my goodness.
Yeah. All the historians, everybody was stupid. Only the Quran was right.
only the Quran got it right. But notice, I mean, wait, didn't his prophet have the Jews bring out a copy of the Torah and say, "I believe in you and in the one who revealed you"? So he believes in a book full of mistakes. Wow. He believed that a book full of mistakes was revealed by Allah.
No, he was referring to an invisible copy of that book, which was preserved and uncorrupted. He wasn't referring to the actual book that they brought to him. You are getting this completely wrong by reading the things exactly as they are, David, because you are an Islamophobe. Man.
Dawah.
At the time of Joseph, the ruler is a king. There's no pharaohs. How did they know that? That's number 2. Number 3, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Rum, Rum. The Romans have been defeated.
See, I knew it. I knew it was going to come.
The historians say the way the Romans got defeated by the Persians, it's impossible to think, let alone them coming back to win, for them to even...
Wait, who says that?
Show me the scholar. Yeah, go back into it.
Who says that? Wait a minute.
Guys, keep in mind what he just said.
Wait a minute.
The scholars say it was impossible for the Roman Empire.
Who says that? Wait a minute.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Rum, the Romans have been defeated. The historians say the way the Romans got defeated by the Persians, it's impossible to think, let alone them coming back.
Historians say that?
Historians say there's no way. It's absolutely impossible. It is a contradiction in terms to say that the Roman Empire, which had lost tons and tons of battles and won tons and tons of battles, would possibly win another battle after losing that battle. Historians, scholars, everyone. I read it in a book. The same guy who talks about little babies believing in the cube. What is this guy, man? And they love him.
Historians say that. Historians say it's impossible.
Because the historians say. Notice, it's not. Hey, here's the historian making this argument. Notice the guy who
on Wikipedia this would get an citation needed, or which historians in brackets.
The historians. They say it. They tells us it.
All the history.
Encyclopedia Britannica, Egyptology tells us it.
Back to win, for them to even exist. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala,
What the hell?
let alone them coming back to win, for them to even exist.
Oh
Wait,
my!
wait,
I
wait.
didn't even catch that part at first.
The
What
Roman,
the hell?
after losing a battle against the Persians,
Wow.
historians say that it's impossible for them to win a battle afterwards, even to exist after that. Like
What
by
in
losing
the
that battle.
world is going on?
But
What the
this is
hell?
Ali
man?
Dawah. This is Ali Dawah.
Ali Dawah, do
Rome-
you know what the Romans were?
Historians have said it.
Wow.
The Roman Empire ceased to exist after they lost that battle. It was no more. The empire was no more. It was gone. It disappeared.
Any
was
historian-
it was sucked into a vortex. This historians agree.
Any
The
historian,
whole
My-
empire
my-
was sucked into the vortex.
my high school history teacher would sit down here and, I don't know, bang his head on the table and think, what in the world am I watching? Did this person never go to school? My 5th grade history teacher would react with shock to what we have just witnessed here.
Subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Rum, "Qulubat al-Rum." The Romans have been defeated. The historians say the way the Romans got defeated by the Persians, it's impossible to think, let alone them coming back to win, for them to even exist.
It wouldn't exist.
Wow.
They ceased
Wow.
to exist. Historians say it, AP.
Historians say as a result of that defeat, it was impossible for them to even exist.
They
at
could,
that point.
exist. They can't exist anymore.
Wow, man. Wow. I heard a lot of ridiculously stupid, moronic nonsense from Dawah, but this is just a whole new level, man. This is beyond Dawah. I can't.
And they love him for it, man. They love him for it. The more he lies, the more stuff he makes up, the more they
Wow.
love him and praise him, and the more popular he becomes. What does that
Jeez,
tell
this
you?
is
What does that tell you
unbelievable.
about the religion?
This is unbelievable, man. This is not just a Dawah saying dumb, stupid things to prove Islam, about Islam, about religion. This is beyond stupid. It is one of the dumbest things I've heard in my entire life, and this is not an exaggeration. I'm not even being I'm not even being sarcastic. I'm not exaggerating. I'm being mean. This is one of the dumbest things I've heard in my entire life.
What's your problem? Just to be clear, you don't believe him when he says that historians have said that after the Romans, who were battling the Persians for a long time, after they won a battle, there's no way for them to exist ever again? Is that what you're objecting to? Because, I mean, he flat out told you, historians said it, by golly. Historians. Let's bring up the Quran just for people who weren't here the last time we discussed this stupid. By the way, notice, everyone, notice. He was challenged to give proof of Islam. And he said, because of the miracles of the Quran. That's for one. He said, I'll give you 3. This, obviously, he's going with his best ones, right? Obviously, he's going to give his best one. This is best stuff to prove that Islam is true. This is it. Historians, which historian? All of them, I guess, everyone who studies that, they all concluded after the Romans won a battle, the Roman Empire ceased to exist. And it's impossible for them to ever win again. And yet,
I want to say something.
yet they were out there fighting again because somehow they still had an army, even though they ceased to exist.
And experts could say it, so it was impossible for them to even exist at that point. But they have proven the historians wrong and come back and defeated the Persians because this was a miracle. It was a great miracle, and historians are still surprised and shocked and baffled to this point, still wondering how such an impossibility, such a contradiction could possibly.
That's why all historians are converting to Islam, because they're like, how could How could the author of the Quran possibly know that the Romans would exist? How? I mean, all historians agreed that the Romans would cease to exist after losing a battle, and yet
How?
Muhammad said they would exist.
How
And
do they exist? How do they exist?
Not only that after some number of years, they'd win a battle in their ongoing war against the Persians.
How is this possible? How could they exist?
It's impossible to know. It's impossible to know.
Wow.
Hey, let's read the
my God.
passages.
I have to say something, David. I have to say something before we go further. I want to, after witnessing this, after seeing this,
recite the Shahada.
No. I want to do something even better than that, and I want to say I am very sorry. I'm very sorry. I feel very bad, and I sincerely apologize with all my heart for ever making fun of Ali Dawah, for ever saying anything terrible about him, for ever engaging with him seriously, attempting to have a discussion with him, for all the things that we hear from him, for everyone who was influenced by him. I'm sincerely very sorry. Ali Dawah, it is not your fault. I understand this now. None of this is your fault. It's really not your fault. None of this is your fault. Given what we have just witnessed, I wasn't aware of how bad the situation is. I am aware now. I know today, Ali Dawah, and I hope you can. I don't think you can understand it, but I hope you can feel how sorry I am after acknowledging how bad your situation is. It's not bad for you, it's bad for everyone else who is witnessing it, but I'm very sorry. I apologize, Ali Dawah. And please, everybody, don't blame him, don't bully him, don't attack him. It's not his fault.
Alhamdulillah, AP has admitted that he was wrong about everything. And this is the proof. This is the new proof of the power of Islam.
This is so stupid. By the way, the live stream still has a donation open as a fundraiser for people who are for the victims in the earthquake in Turkey. Everyone can still donate. I only halfway through the stream came up with the idea to add that, and it's not even a fundraiser organized by me, but by somebody else here on YouTube. But it goes to a credible Turkish foundation, the Turkish Philanthropy Funds, which organizes a campaign to help the victims of the earthquake in Turkey. I didn't do a stream dedicated to that. Maybe I can do that on a different occasion, but it is still there. You can still choose to donate to it in the comment section. Nothing goes to me. It goes directly to the foundation. Yeah. Okay. Let's go.
Let's pull out the Quran again.
Let's do that. Yeah. Let's do that.
Surah 30.
I'm dead, man. I'm done today.
This one will be easy. Is this the end? Is that video continue?
Yeah, it goes on forever, I think. I don't know. We should be done.
What's he going to say after this? I mean, he's already conclusively proven that Islam is true. So what else is he going to say?
I swear, I'm not exaggerating. I'm not even being, what's the word? I've never used that word before. I'm coming up with big English words now. Facetious. I'm not even exaggerating. This is one of the dumbest things I've heard in my entire life, man.
It's
serious.
pretty bad. But
I'm
I mean,
serious.
again, what do Muslims say when they see this? It's conclusive proof. How can anyone doubt this? So powerful.
The Quran chapter 4.
No, 30, chapter 30. Is it 30? Man, my brain is fried. I think it's 30. Yeah, Surah 30.
I will never recover from this. Yeah, okay. Chapter 30.
Alif Lam Mim.
Go ahead. The Byzantines have been defeated.
In the nearest land. But
You have to sing it.
The Byzantines have been defeated. It'd be funny if you use that because you could hear it. You could hear it. They see it, the melodious sound of the voice of the Muezzin. The Byzantines have been defeated. in the nearest land. But
Hold
they,
on. Said, try to tear that Quran and you are dead tonight. I'm not sure if this is a real Muslim or if it's just
if
trolling.
that's a real Muslim, tell me, because I will tear that Quran.
I will do it immediately.
If it's someone fake who is just trying to get us to do it, I don't want to do it. But if it's a real guy,
I don't want to do it.
Yeah, we'll do it.
If it's a real Muslim, tell us. I'll do it immediately right now.
We are happy to escalate, but we don't do it. We dial up to that when someone deserves it, right? Like when
Yeah, but go ahead. Sorry, continue.
So the Byzantines have been defeated in the nearest land, but they, after their defeat, will overcome within 3 to 9 years. Within 3 to 9 years, if I recall correctly, it's just there's a word for few, and Abu Bakr thought that it had passed already, and then Muhammad said, "No, it's 3 to 9." But to Allah belongs the command, i.e., decree before and after, and that day the believers will rejoice. Okay, in the victory of Allah. So He's the one, He gives victory to whom He will. So, guys, we'll mainly want you to understand what the argument is. So, the Muslims supported not actually going out and fighting, but they wanted the Christians, the Byzantine Roman Christians, they wanted them to win against the Persians, because the Christians were people of the book and the Persians were more along pagan lines. So they wanted the Romans to win. So the idea is that when the Persians won a battle, the Muslims were sad. They got sad. But then the Romans won a battle and the Muslims were happy, because the pagans back then started mocking the Muslims. Ha ha! If Allah's the truth, then how come the Christians just lost the battle? And the Muslims were all teary-eyed and broken-hearted. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, don't worry, they're going to come back and they're going to fight. I mean, they're going to fight.
By that logic, the pagans were even dumber than other Dawah.
Yeah. So Allah said they're going to come back and they're going to win. On what basis could you possibly know that the Romans would come back and eventually win after a period of years? Who knows? It's impossible. The Romans have been around centuries fighting battles, and they were pretty good at war. How could you know that they're going to come back and win? It's impossible. But so that's the argument. Now we'll point out one of the most obvious problems, especially since Ali Dawah himself says you can't just go to history. You have to be able to know it somehow other than going to history. I sent you a link, AP, to Termity. We've read this before, but want everyone to have access to it. In fact, guys, if you really want to do something, take this hadith and keep it handy for when this argument comes up. There are more like this, but just keep this one handy. Narrated, and keep in mind there are other hadiths which give a different version, which is more along the lines of what Muslims say. The point is, this is these narrations completely contradict the standard Muslim story. Let's see, wait 1 second. Hey, that one's Hassan. I'll give you another one just for general principle. I'll give you another one that he. Let me see. But we could leave this up because they say pretty much the same thing. But let's see, I have to send it to myself to get it.
You see, he doesn't have the right.
You see, it's the power. Let's go ahead and no, that's right. That's the.
I know. I'm just kidding, man.
Okay, so but let's go ahead and read this, and then I'll give you the Sahih one.
Okay.
Narrated Abu Sa'id on the day when, what day? The day of the Battle of Badr, the Romans had a victory over the Persians. So what is this hadith about? This is not about the Romans losing. This is about the Romans winning a victory over the Persians. So the believers were pleased with that. Then, that's the key word there, then the following was revealed. Aleph Lam Mim, the Romans had been defeated, up to his saying, the believers will rejoice. He said, so the believers were happy with the victory of the Romans over the Persians. Did you catch that, ladies and gentlemen? According to this hadith in Jamiat Tirmidhi, the Quran passage we just read was revealed after it was already fulfilled. So in other words, the Persians defeated the Romans in battle, and then some time goes by, Then the Romans come back and win a battle. And then Muhammad receives the passage saying, this is what's going to happen. That's in their hadith. That's in their hadith. The reason we're pointing this out as a problem is because, keep in mind, Ali Dawah, you can't go and examine history to find the miracles. Okay. How do we know that this hadith is wrong? How do we know that this hadith is wrong and Muhammad actually predicted, oh my goodness, the Romans will win a battle against people who defeated them once before? How could he know this?
Historians say they shouldn't even exist.
Yeah, historians agree. There's no way for them to exist. It's impossible. It's impossible. Like how is no one questioning anything he says, right? So guys, do you get the point here? One, it's something that anyone could have predicted. It's something that anyone could have predicted. But according to Ali Dawah, it's something that no one could predict because there's no way the Romans would even exist after losing that battle. But when we go to the actual sources, what do we find? I sent you a Sahih version just for people who aren't pleased unless it's Sahih.
Ungrateful people here.
Narrated Atiyah. Abu Sa'id narrated on the day of Badr, the Romans had a victory over the Persians. So the believers were pleased with that. Then the following was revealed: Alif Lam Mim, the Romans have been defeated, up to his saying, the believers will rejoice with the help of Allah. He said, so the believers were happy with the victory of the Romans over the Persians. Now, so again, the question, if you can't trust history at all to verify a miracle, and their own sources will say, their own sources will acknowledge that Muhammad received this after it was already fulfilled. This would be like me coming along after the Super Bowl tomorrow and predicting the winner. Right?
Yeah.
But notice, they will say, this hadith is wrong. A different hadith which says that it was before. That was, wait a minute. How are you verifying that? You can't touch that. You're not there to touch that. Yeah, it's in the Quran. You could touch that. You could touch the Quran. How do you know that this hadith is wrong and the other hadith is right? How do you do it? Why are we supposed to believe that?
Well, historians,
And this is the conclusive proof. This and the fact that the Romans existed. How could Muhammad have possibly known that?
It's just so stupid.
These are the answers. These are the answers to the toughest atheist questions.
Atheist questions. Oh, okay, I'm done, man. I can't go.
Tell me there can't be more.
Let me quickly see if this is it with the whole.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, the Romans have been defeated, but they are going to win.
Yeah.
Say, and we're going to beat Trump.
No, play that.
What did USA, and statement. That's like saying you guys together, we're going to take over USA, and we're going to beat Trump.
This is
pause that.
not
Pause.
at all similar. What the hell are you talking about?
Did you guys notice what he just claimed? For some reason, the audience never picks up on how stupid this is. Notice what he's saying. The Roman Empire, keyword empire, is fighting the Persian Empire. The two empires are fighting. And so earlier he says that, after the Romans lost the battle, well, historians agreed that they can't even exist after that. So it was total, absolute, idiotic nonsense. But then he wants to give an analogy to understand how impossible it is that the Romans would come back and win a battle, especially if you're receiving the revelation after it already happens. But it would be the Roman Empire winning a battle would be like Ali Dawah and these other two guys defeating and conquering the United States of America, the three of them. This is Dawah. This is what impresses their followers. This makes them go, Alhamdulillah, the clear proof. Oh my goodness, I'm going to weep tears over how powerful this is. Yes, he's right. I can touch it. I don't know. I don't know what to do when your audience is stupid, when your audience is so incredibly deluded and stupid.
Wow.
And keep in mind, guys, I am not talking about all Muslims. There are plenty of Muslims who look at this and go, "Oh my goodness! Like, please stop, Ali. Just stop. We're begging you to stop. You're making us look like morons. Please stop." So we're not talking about all Muslims. We're talking about the Dawah crowd and their followers. It's like it's disheartening because when you'll believe stuff like this, oh yes, the Roman Empire winning a battle is like Ali Dawah and 2 Turkish guys defeating the United States of America. It's the same thing. Man. It's the same thing. And they eat it up.
I want to listen to it one more time, David. Just please. I want to listen to it one more time.
The whole video. It's so powerful.
They are going to win. That's a big statement. That's in the Quran. The Romans have been defeated, but they are going to win. That's a big statement. That's like saying you guys together, we're going to take over USA and we're going to beat Trump.
Dude, are you... Oh, I don't want to use the word, but... Wow, man. Does this guy... I mean, seriously, does Ali Dawah know what the Roman Empire actually was? Does he know what the Persian Empire was? Does he know what these two things were and how they compared to each other? Does he know anything about history at all? Does he know anything? Did he ever watch a movie in which the Romans were depicted? I don't. I mean, it is just completely I don't know. I'm lost for words. It's like it doesn't make sense. How does he get to the point? How in the world does he get to that point of arguing at first that historians say it was impossible for them to even exist, let alone defeat them, but then, and I have to correct myself, now I have heard something significantly dumber than that first claim within just a few minutes. And then to say, claiming that the Romans will defeat the Persians is like saying, hey, you guys and me, we will go over and take over America and defeat Trump. I mean, how in the world? It is impossible for me. This is impossible for me to comprehend how in the world you even come to such a conclusion and even make such an argument. This is so stupid. I have never met a person who would make a claim like this, who would be as stupid, as idiotic to make a claim like this. I am not exaggerating. I cannot think of a single person I have met in my life who would say something so ridiculously stupid with such confidence. Wow, man.
It's pretty bad, but you know how they get like this? Because it's what their people want, right? Wow. If their people, if their audience, wow, if their audience were to say, dude, you quit talking about the contingency argument. You don't know what you're talking about. Quit talking about this stuff. You quote a book. You don't even understand it. If you did understand it, then you were lying about it, which you either didn't understand the book or you did and you're a liar. Everything you say about history, everything you say about the Quran, everything, you sound like such a dope. Just stop. Then you wouldn't have this. Instead, they eat it. Oh, alhamdulillah. And what does that mean? That encourages more of the same. And so, guys, you are
just to give you some little context. Just to give people some little context, I mean, just to point out even something very basic, the Romans and the Persians were at war for centuries. They fought back and forth. One wins, then the other wins, then the other wins, and so on. They were at war forever. Yes, I'm exaggerating by saying forever. I'm not being literal. You probably wouldn't get this. But they were at war for a very long time because they were competing two empires, two powers. They were fighting against each other. I mean, this is so stupid, man. It was the dumbest thing I've heard in my life.
I wanted to see how many people watch this. 1.8 million. 1.8 million.
Are you kidding?
And 1.8 million. You can spout complete, insane, idiotic nonsense for 12 minutes straight, and they will love it.
Wow. I
And
swear, I don't want to say this very often, but I think humans can be incredibly stupid.
Yeah, it's comment after comment. I was born Muslim, but recently I had some questions in my mind and I got confused. Thank God I'm being guided back to the path with vivid explanations. And one of the contributors to this video, one of the contributors to this is this video. This is
so
beautifully answered. This clears up questions I had. I'm reading different comments here.
This is so ridiculously stupid. Oh my god, this is. I'm serious. I'm shocked, man. I'm not even exaggerating. I didn't see this video. I didn't watch the video through. I didn't see this part. I wasn't aware of what he says. After hearing this, I swear I am beyond shocked. I am surprised. I never expected. I know. I will say it with all honesty. I think Dawah is an extremely stupid person. And to be very honest, one of the dumbest Muslim apologists out there, while also being the most popular Muslim apologist, which speaks volumes. But despite all of that, and despite my history with him, I didn't expect to hear something this stupid tonight. I did say to David as well that like he's one of the dumbest people out there, and I'm expecting some really cringy, dumb stuff. But you know, there are layers to it. Like when I say something like that, I'm not actually predicting what will happen. I am probably also using a little bit of personal opinion, feeling, history to make an assessment, like mixed with sarcasm, with fun, to say, to insult him in advance. Basically, I'm being biased, not being really factual. I'm being a little bit cheeky and dumb in my approach to the situation. I'm very honest. I'll be very honest in this right now, right? That's what we do. I mean, we don't approach it fairly and factually. We say, he's very dumb, and there will probably be a lot of dumb stuff. We don't know if that's true or not, but that's just how we go into it. But then sitting here and listening to what he just said in response to the question, this whole point, I swear I never expected to hear something this ridiculously stupid. I am shocked. I'm seriously shocked. I'm surprised, and I have lost hope for humanity at this point. Like I'm questioning why I'm even doing this. Oh,
I'm still looking at the comment. I love how Ali Dawah taught himself about Islam by doing research and managed to confront the atheists that Islam truly is the true religion. Wow. His answers are simple and can be understood by a child. May Allah preserve Ali Dawah and make me a da'i like him, inshallah.
Wow, man. I'm done.
This was a masterpiece. Jeez. And you cleared up all of the questions by giving logical answers. This video has increased my faith and to believe the true religion, Islam.
Wow.
What confidence, wisdom, belief he has. May Allah bless you.
Wow.
A masterpiece of a video and answers. I have heard of many things, but today I truly experienced something new when Ali invalidated a question.
Wow.
I am born Muslim, but now I'm Muslim with knowledge about Islam.
Wow.
Tremendous job. May Allah bless you with his guidance. He's an amazing brother, mashallah. So clever, too fast with his answers.
Dude. I'm lost.
It goes on forever. The comments are almost all like that. Such a great explanation.
I remember this
to me.
video.
Oh my goodness! To me, he's a genius.
Wow. To you, yeah, that says a lot about you. Yeah. Yeah. I remember this video where Mohammed Hijab was reacting to to critics by Muslims in response to his performance with me and his behavior with me. And in that video, I think it was a response to Sajid Lippin, because Sajid Lippin was basically calling out Dawah and the Muslim apologists and how terrible they were. And Dawah's behavior was horrible. And Mohammed Hijab basically made a response defending Dawah. And in that, he also said something like that they pulled Dawah aside and talked very seriously about his debate and performance with me, and they talked things through, made some plans for the future. And he also said that Dawah has a different personality. He is just somebody who really can connect with the younger people, with the kids,
Yeah, people who know absolutely nothing about history or anything else.
So
and you could notice. I mean, it's like grooming, right? In the sense that you're trying to get some people who don't know any better and then fill their heads with a bunch of ideas. And then once you've done that, you fill their heads with complete nonsense. So you've got your followers for life there.
Yeah, dude,
Powerful. You're not ready to convert after that?
This is so stupid, man. I feel bad for this. Muslims, I mean, really, man. I mean, don't let people like this represent you and your religion and create this big embarrassment. It's just, it's terrible. What the hell? Okay, we're done.
All right.
That's it.
Powerful stuff. All
That's
right.
it.
So
It was horrible. I'm not even going to make a part 2 for this. This is horrible.
Hey, we'll be on my channel tomorrow night watching a clip from William Lane Craig, and we'll see if William Lane Craig can even begin to match the powerful argumentation and wisdom of Ali Dawah.
I'm pretty sure William Lane Craig is not good enough to even compete with Ali Dawah and his great genius and wisdom, his knowledge, his perfect approach at defending religion and God and all of that. So nothing to fear.
Can you imagine clicking on a William Lane Craig video and seeing him going on, well, so historians concluded that the Romans wouldn't even exist for 3 reasons. Number 1, I mean, can you...
How are you so good at imitating everybody, man? I don't understand. No, yeah, that would be fun. They will go on and talk about how we are humiliated. So, wait a minute. Okay. Quickly, a few super chats. I think there are more, but I can't really see them all. Can you pull them up? I'm so tired. We have to go. Real question is where does the sun go at night? Dawah wouldn't tell me. They don't want to tell me. It apparently metaphorically goes somewhere. Metaphysically goes somewhere. Sorry.
And the scientists agree. They agree with us, isn't it?
It was impossible for the sun to even exist.
The sun couldn't exist if the Quran didn't say it. The scientists all agree.
Oh boy, man, this is just too much, man. Matthew Gets Biblical said the Mahdi actually matches the Antichrist. Yeah, we can argue about that. I made a video about the Mahdi. It's like mostly based on folk stuff. Lieutenant Gregory Stevens said, "You do realize this is Lieutenant Gregory Stevens." What is a character? What's going on here? I don't know. I'm missing out on this. I have no idea. Melissa Hogan made a super chat. And said nothing. I appreciate it very much. Thank you. Change comes from within. Made a super chat. Thank you. I appreciate it. Change comes from within. Said, I suppose God creating a rock, he cannot lift Jesus as a God on earth, a rock. Keep in mind, Yahweh exists in a superior spiritual dimension, hence why he sends angels and representative. Example 33:20.
Oh,
Exodus.
That's actually an interesting response that God could, through the incarnation, God could do it. Interesting.
Yeah, that's funny. I'm sorry, man. I'm still stuck at the whole.
You're overwhelmed by the power of his Dawah.
Wow, man. I don't know if I can continue after this. St. Miles said, "Here, take my money to help as many as you can." Oh, yeah, I will. Thank you, St. Miles. I appreciate it. We will make more live streams, but I'm not sure if I still have the conviction and the power after what we have witnessed today. This is the end of human civilization as we know it. Marisa Kennedy said, AP, if Muhammad had blue hair, would he be classified as a Smurf, and Aladdin's genie, or an anime character? Smurf, I would say. Yeah.
Well, if he's also wearing his child's nightie and had blue hair, I don't know.
Yeah.
He'd be in some category.
This is a difficult question for a different time. We have to figure this out. There were more super chats, I think, but I cannot see them for some weird reason. I cannot pull them up. I'm sorry if I missed those. And I don't see who.
That's kind. Considering the technical problems we had when we started off, it's that's the least of worries.
Yeah, least of
guys. If you he had like 0.02 megabytes per second or something like that.
Yeah, upload speed.
We're trying to get started. Yeah.
That's like going live in 2005, or okay, maybe that's too far. I don't know. Yeah.
And then iCam left me completely distorted.
Yeah.
Powerful.
Anyway, powerful stuff. I'm hereby converting to Islam just to own the Muslims like Abu Lahab would do it.
AP would never convert.
So here goes. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. This means I testify that there is no God but Allah, and I testify that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. I have become a Muslim as a result of Al-Dawah's great genius, his great skills, and also just to own the Muslims as he thinks the enemies should do.
Plus he gave you all that stuff you didn't know about the Romans.
Yeah. Sarah pointed it out. She said this video has crushed AP's spirit. I'm serious, man. I'm a changed man.
Isn't it like it? It's like, oh man.
I'm serious. I'm not acting here. I'm not being sarcastic. I'm not being stupid. I'm seriously overwhelmed.
It's like destroys. Like, how do you reason with someone who reasons like this? How do you reason with 1.8 million people who look at that and go, "Oh, so powerful"? Like, what do you do?
I mean, the thing is, we're talking about Al-Dawah, but I have a sense of compassion within me that is like, if I stood in front of Al-Dawah now after seeing this, and he was like, "Hey, I destroy you, you boy," I would feel like, hey,
grapes,
it's okay. I would feel this warmth and this compassion and this understanding in me, and go to him and be like, hey, it's okay. I understand you. It's not your fault, and I don't want to fight with you.
Let me feed you grapes.
Man, I'm so done. Okay, we have to go.
All right.
Thanks everyone for watching and for witnessing this decline in human intellect and compassion and understanding. Thank you for witnessing the end of humanity as we know it. Have a fantastic day, everyone. And as always, stay away from Islam. You see what it does.
You can see it.
You can see it. Goodbye, cruel world. Okay, end broadcast here. Okay, stay away from Islam. Bye-bye.